Welcome back to another Habs Locker Room report with the Hockey Coast Goal Code franchise directly for beautiful country at Thailand on amazing great Wednesday night, February 14th, the Valentine night of the Montreal Canadiens. So we're going to stay positive. And we want to welcome back both co-hosts of the show, directly from Hawkesbury, Mr. Marco Larrabee, and from Caveman and Toronto area. Wait for the snow, Mr. Inartep are back in the house.
Good evening, Coach. You're looking at two guys probably in the doghouse with their significant others to come and stream and talk about hockey on Valentine's Day. I made up for it. I was a gentleman all day. But Inartep, did you lay it on extra thick today to get away with jumping on here tonight?
Absolutely. And not only did I get the flowers, we went up for dinner, and I promised even a weekend excursion. So I think I'm okay. I don't think we'll see. I'll let you know later.
My Valentine night, it was about watermelon at 11:35 a.m. or p.m. at the night. So don't ask her more questions. I just said to you, what do you do? I got watermelon for the night on that one. So
we can go so many ways on that one.
But if you go out with someone, work until 10:30 p.m., you have no choice. So you have to make another plan for another day, but it's only in Thailand anyway. This show is not sponsored by Rick Bengal, by the way. I just want to be sure we understand that between everybody. And hopefully we're going to go through this with no uppercut or jab around the show. But we have a lot of great things to talk about this Montreal Canadiens. And then we'll maybe open up a couple of news about the NHL news. They have only 3 games in NHL at this moment. Pittsburgh got destroyed by the Florida Panthers. And the Winnipeg Jets hanging there 1-0 against the Sharks. But the Sharks are 21-8 at this moment for the Winnipeg Jets. We have another game a little bit later in the program. But that's what we're going to do tonight. What is the subject of this evening, ladies and gentlemen? But the subject of the night, guys, Slafkovsky, a star is born for the Montreal Canadiens. I know it could be a little bit bigger what you think it is, but I will go to share it with you. If you follow my video, I did a video about the captain step up, and then the bees, Mr. Slafkovsky. And then you follow my friendship in Thailand. It was a sunset in 2024. Every night we have a sunset. I'm just sharing those kind of sunsets on the great music. And you can hang in there and looking for the sunset we have in Thailand. How about that?
Those were rated R, Coach.
I'm sorry again?
Those pictures were rated R, I think.
Yeah, it's I keep this on the sun on this video, a short video, about 5 minutes. That's pretty much it. The next video will be out tomorrow. But there's another subject for the time. We have a few people knock the door. Welcome back. A long time we just seen our friend Paul. Paul Duffy is in the house. Welcome back, Paul. Thanks to be with the Hockey Nation show. Our friend Rick with the beautiful Dementra directly from the Lake House in Halifax are back in the house tonight. Welcome back, Robin. We have a Robin in the house. I think it's the first time for Robin. Thanks to be with us. What you had, but it's a little bit better tonight. I thought it was going to be worse. But thanks to be with the Hockey Nation show. We appreciate a lot. And there we go. We'll put this right here. Here we go. Here we go. Now, Rick, pas la great annonciation for the pour 10 game. It's good to see it's hyper, but a beast. Let's remember, we can answer that only first 97 game. 19 goals, 31 assists. That's more because Slafkovsky was a star. Let us see. I hope he does. Here we go.
Hopefully that's the last time that Wickenheiser and Slafkovsky are mentioned in the same sentence.
In the same sentence.
Yeah. Question for Rick. Where will Juraj Slafkovsky finish up 29 games left? I would say that 13 more goals to finish at 24 and 10 more assists for finish 24, 26 assists for 51. That would be a residential finish. Rick, we're going to talk a little bit more about this a little bit later. Nicolas is back in the house. Hola, como está? And then Luciano Graziano, Mr. Luciano, welcome back in the house. Luciano, thanks to be with our Canadian Live show. And depends on this, Marco Eric Cournoyer dropped the UPS truck and sit on the couch and we're listening. us. Happy Valentine's Day, Mr. Inartab. Directly from Colorado. Mr. Steve G is
Aw,
in the house
so
tonight.
sweet.
Steve, thanks
So,
again. We appreciate it to be with us. What about the new father, the new daughter? RDP from Newfoundland is in the house tonight. Welcome back. Thanks to be talking on the show. He's smiling because the Buffalo Sabres destroy the Los Angeles
ooh,
Kings by the score of 7-0
ooh,
for sure. Patrick Leblanc with his bet of the night.
look at it.
Barkov to score a goal for 3.5. The money looked good for the Panthers, but not for Barkov scoring a goal. We'll see what's happening about that one there. Ready, William dropped the Polaris on the driveway. Just wait now for the. We talk about the hockey with the Montreal Canadiens. Welcome back, William. Thanks to be with us. Our friend Gary.
Absolutely.
Welcome back, Gary. Thanks to be with us. We miss you, Gary. I don't know. I didn't see you the last couple of days. Hopefully, you're doing well. That's you. We want to open the door to say hi to Roy. Roy, hopefully, you're doing better. Can't wait to see you around the next couple of games, couple of days. King of Gamer, welcome back in the house, Mr. King. Hopefully, you're doing well. And thanks to be with our Canadian show. Patrick Leblanc. Et then Claude Richard dans la capitale du Canada, directement de Ottawa. Il est retourné avec nous ce soir. Question, do you think Zuski can make Team Canada at the Olympic? At this rate, he can. In our tap, and Marco, in 10 seconds, each one of you. He can, we cannot.
It's possible. Probably won't be a starter on the team, but I could see him as a reserve on the team. That's my early take on that.
I think he can, especially the Olympic team next year, maybe for the Four Nations Cup or whatever, might be a bit too soon. But don't forget, guys, like other people are making their lineups, but it's like, 2 years from now, right? So if he continues down this path, I think it's between him and Thomas are on a lot of people's lists. So should be interesting.
Good point.
Good
I would say
question.
to you, we talk about Team Canada, right? We don't talk about like, it's like, only need 4 center. You have to be the top 4, and he's not at the top 2, in my opinion. So you have to be number 4 or 5th, and this usually a specific role of players you're going to add on your team. And I think it maybe go not on that direction. You have many ski, like I don't know, like you can get Crosby example, but maybe a 4 line maybe more need a 4 checker or a guy more reliable on the PK and more speed and play ball for physical. So I'll give you an example, like Sean Couturier example. I don't say you're going to make the team, but I'm just talking like the specific role you're going to add on Team Canada. That for me will be very hard for him to make Team Canada, in my opinion.
You guys remember remember the first Olympics and they chose Rob Zamner? And everybody's like, Rob Zamner? Like, it's the classic Rob Zamner move to get, a role player to play. And just a reminder, Canada didn't win the gold that year. Just a sec.
Absolutely. Then we're going to Willie Snyder, directly from Canada, also from Avada, with the Moose back in the house tonight. Welcome back, Willie. Hopefully in duel. Glad to have you aboard. Cameron, back in the house. Welcome back. Cameron said we'll have 60, 70 points next season. This is one of my poll question tonight at 10 o'clock. What's going to be his peak of his career, how many points he can get in NHL. So that will be the question. Will be out at 10 o'clock. Mr. Evan Alexander is in the house. Welcome back, Evan. Thanks to be with our Canadian show. RJ Calabro back in the house directly from New Jersey. Wait for all update. Easy night for RJ. Not many things. RJ said no football anymore. Baseball is off. As you need to about the NBA and our top percentage
of
LeBron James trade to the Golden State.
Not going to happen. I think Golden State wanted that, but the management in LA has spoken. Not going. Not happening.
All right. I'm just going to let you know, I predict the finals, not the final score, but I predict the winning team, the Super Bowl, and the number of the point at the end. But again, I'm just sharing this for Patrick. If you need help on his bet per night, I can helping him.
Patrick does well.
That'll be about that again. I just want to say that about this. Interesting question, Gary, on Suzuki, William McClary. Roger Bush-Bouchard back in the house. Roger, thanks to see you. Hopefully, you don't feel better. By the way, we know you have some kind of about speed recovery for you if you're still in this on this mine. And Roger, but will Primeau be the backup next season for Roger about this one over there?
More than likely.
Oh yeah. If you saw Hughes's interview today on he was on another podcast, and I don't know if we have this as a topic, Coach, but like he's just waiting for the rate trading partner. Apparently, there's some teams that are interested, but they just can't make it work right now. So it's maybe more of a summer thing. So to me, it makes sense that just waiting for the right opportunity. It is a very complicated deal because he has one more year on his contract, right? So all indications is that try to get Cayden Primeau some more games, like we were talking about in the last show. One of the top priorities here is to let's confirm that Primeau is an NHL goalie. That's one of the things we want to confirm for the rest of the season, and then we should have our answer. Yeah.
All right. Evan from Newfoundland. I always like to have people from Newfoundland, like RDB. Evan, welcome. Hopefully you're doing well over there.
Welcome.
The area of the Dawson Mercer. And, of course, Dawson. Leon Renault. Leon Renault said, welcome back, Leon, by the way. Leon is quiet, but he always brings some great comments all the time. Zuzi extra only. That's my feeling about that. I think you nail it, Leon, about that. John Garage, welcome back in the house. Overly doing well. Welcome again back with us. We miss a lot of Dixon. We never see Dixon anymore.
It's been a while.
And Alan Vaillancourt. Alan did not come. I apologize again. Alan Marco did not return. Son, we told him we're going to answer his question twice as on the show 3 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oopsies.
So you asked about Gallagher. So we can talk about Gallagher next couple of minutes because he's back in the lineup after suspension. So I have a question for you. But King of Gamer, if you had to put a price tag on the Montreal top 3 forward on the market, what will be? What would they be? And Slafkovsky, Slafkovsky, a Doc.
Like price tag, like what you could get if you were to trade them?
Yeah.
Why would we? At this stage, why would we?
Yeah. I don't know if it's an exercise that's worth going through because it's very, very unlikely to happen. But if you look at the order of which has the most value, I would probably say Suzuki, Slafkovsky, and Caulfield in that order would be how I would rank them in terms of how much value they have.
Yeah, and Doc's a hard one to evaluate because we haven't really seen a full season out of him yet, but it'll be easier maybe next year if he stays healthy and is in the mix there.
Great point about that one. For that one, for sure. Great answer about this. Sarkozy pick up one of the points, Patrick Levin. Suzuki would make a team thinking over Tavares and NS26. He would make over Tavares, but I don't think so. Both of them are going to be the team, and that's my only thing. AK is in the house.
Tavares might be the assistant coach by then. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, Auntie.
Yeah, but
yeah, I don't see John Tavares being in play for that. Yeah, like he might be assistant coach or something because he's getting older and I don't think he's going to be on the roster.
We'll see. And Rabinov is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Great to having you aboard. Coach need to wear a Yarg wig about that. Yeah, it's not necessary anymore. I'll give up on that one. And a little early to call a star. He need to show he can undo his consistency. About this one there. And then who knows the Marty Kachuk referee for a lover. AK, absolument team altering probably players. They are not about this. Do you think Gignac would take even place in the lineup, Gary Connery?
That's a very interesting question. So in my headline, I think on Monday, it was about evaluations, right? So that's what this is exactly the kind of thing that you're looking at for the balance of the year, guys. Like yesterday was an exception, how exciting the game was. They're not all going to be like yesterday. There's going to be some tougher ones, but
Not many.
if you want to, no, if you want to keep it interesting though, these are the kinds of things that we should be evaluating, right? Is Gignac playing well enough that maybe he makes Evans expendable next year? Because we've talked about it. Evans might have a decent value actually in the marketplace, especially for a playoff team that's looking for a really versatile guy that can kill penalties, do faceoffs. So that's exactly the kind of things that we're going to be evaluating, and I'm sure that the Habs management team is going to be evaluating in the last half of the season here.
And some of the players know as well. Like Evans obviously knows that his position could be up for grabs. So you're going to get some internal competition, which is always good for the team.
Absolutely.
Our friend Roger Delaney, knock the door, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in the house.
Hey, Roger,
thank you to be with
the
us.
master.
Thank you to be with us. Star is born. Going to talk about this subject tonight. But at the beginning of the show, guys, we always do the headlines. And I think we have three different headlines, but they go all together. And so we'll see what we're going to discuss about this. So let's move on to the headlines of the night. Thanks everybody to be with us. Don't forget to click on the like if you don't mind. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. First of all, we're going to start with Marco. And the first one of the night, Mr. Marco, is
this the best first line? So we're talking Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slafkovsky. Is it potentially the best first line that Montreal's had in the modern era? Now, again, modern era being, for me, let's say the 90s, like since the mid 90s, right after they won their cup, right? So I had a little bit of fun, guys. Guys, please put your responses in the chat. Curious to see kind of what you guys think. Like, what is the best line that Montreal's had, say, since the 90s? And do you think that the current first line, especially the one that we saw last night, could it potentially be the first one? So I had some fun. I went back and I looked. And for me, I landed on this as 95, 96 season. I believe that's it's weird because it's the Régent Houle era. This is after they traded Patrick. So not my favorite era overall, the Jocelyn Thibault era. But overall, though, if you look at the top line, pretty incredible, guys. Like you have Pierre Turgeon, who had 96 points in 80 games. You got Vincent D'Anfos, who's got 94 points in 80 games. And then Mark Recchi, who's got 78 points in 82 games. So to me, that's probably the most dominant first line that in the last, in that period of time. I think some people in the chat yesterday were making an argument for Plekanec, Kovalev, and Kostitsyn. Montreal did finish first in the Eastern Conference that year. But again, like it was more of a team effort. And don't forget, there was some guy, what was his name again? Oh yeah, Carey Price, that was also on the team at that time, right? So, it was a good first line. But to me, that's the most exciting thing about this whole thing, guys. Yesterday, watching the game last night, really starting to see this first line gel and really starting to separate itself out and being potentially like a legitimate number one line here in the NHL. Now, we've talked about what does that mean? Does it necessarily mean that they all have to be a point per game or 100 point, per game or per season? I don't think so. Like I think, like we talked about, if you have a balanced lineup, you can have guys that are 75, 80 points, and I think you have a solid first line. But pretty impressive last night. And for me, this is definitely the best first line. I think we can all agree it's the best first line that Montreal's had in a long time. So, Entertop, curious, what do you think this was the best line like since 1995, 96? Like hard to beat this line here. Pierre Turgeon wasn't in Montreal very long, but 98 points. That's pretty crazy. We haven't seen a Montreal Canadiens player reach those heights in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize, Esther, when you put it in the chat, I didn't see the 1995. I started digging in my old archive.
In the 70s, that's not fair. That's not fair.
That's right. But I think, you know what, as well as this line right now is gelling, the big question mark is longevity, right? I think time will tell in terms of where they rank in in terms of the overall number one lines for Montreal. But I would agree. Like I really like the Kostitsyn, Plekanec, and Kovalev line. I think when you had an explosive player like Kovalev that brought everybody to the edge of their seats every time he touched the puck, and you had two very complementary pieces to go along with that. That was fantastic, and the one that you've listed there, I mean, I can't argue against that. Not only did they get the points, but like look at who they are. There's leadership there. There's true captaincy there. There's mentors there. It's you can't argue with that. So I would just say let's wait and see. At least another couple of years how this line, if it still is the number one line, how they fare. But
So you're not
those three
convinced.
lines are.
So
I'm
Entertap,
not convinced.
you're not convinced that Montreal has a legitimate top line in the NHL right now. Sample size
It's not that. It's not that because I guess what I'm trying to get at is either through trade or who knows, maybe you win the lottery and you bring in now a Celebrini into the equation. It could change the line, right? I mean, this could become it could stay as your number one line, or maybe somebody like Suzuki might. We were saying this yesterday or a couple days ago. Suzuki could become your number two center. Which point I would say that is fantastic because it speaks volumes to who you do have at the number one center position. And they would be really deep at the center spot, which I think is one key ingredient to success and going deep in the playoffs. So, am I 100% convinced that this is going to remain the number one line? I'd say not really, but there's a strong probability that they will be. I just want to see them gel a little bit longer, like maybe another year or so. And
we're obviously really excited after last night. It was against, and guys, we're
we're
going to be
extrapolating.
we're going to be pretty positive tonight. But listen,
Yeah.
we know it was against the Anaheim Ducks yesterday. We get it. But listen, give us this. Give us this
One
little
night.
pocket. Okay, guys, if you're watching this and you're not a Habs fan, you're just cruising around looking at thumbnails and you want to crap on us for celebrating a little bit. Hey, it's been a tough couple of years, man. Leave us alone. We're having a fun time talking about our first line, right? So I don't know, like Intertap, I agree. Like, obviously that we have to take it with a grain of salt here, but I just don't see Montreal acquiring another center that's going to usurp Suzuki, right? Like unless, like you said, we win the lottery or something like that. But it's just really hard, like to envision that we're going to be able to acquire a center that is going to play above Suzuki in the lineup. Maybe I think it's going to be more of a 1A, 1B with Doc, something like that. But so for me, I'm really excited about this line. We've talked about this before. Slafkovsky was drafted specifically, it's like he was born to play on this line. It's perfect, right? It's the perfect chemistry, and it's really starting to gel. Great chemistry, not just on the ice, but you can see how they're really supporting each other. So really exciting. So, Coach, what do you think? Have you seen enough to be convinced that this is going to be the first line here? And what is your top line since the 90s for the Montreal Canadiens?
I think the three fit together. You have a snapper, a playmaker, a driver. So you have exactly that everybody bring a specific thing on that line. The chemistry could be great, become better and stronger with the time. And I feel like you talk about Ski second center first. I don't think so. What he tried to figure out now is to patch up and find players by the draft, by trade, or whatever it is, to go with Kirby Doc. And sometimes you don't get, you don't need like the only the guy can score goal. Is you say, okay, who could match up a chemistry with Kirby Doc and the next player beside them to be together. And I think that would be the targeting of Ken Hughes. I think so. Okay, we have a great foundation right now. That line together, we're going to develop that kind of chemistry, and then they would fill up those spots. I believe they missed two top 6 players there, and a winger. I think that would be their next step for the Montreal Canadiens. But so me, I would consider Ski the number one, and then Duck number two, and then fill up that part over there. At the end of the day, remember, guys, it's a team or any team. It's a need three solid top nine forward. If you want to go deep in the playoff, you go all the way to the end. So for me, I keep that line together. And what they showed to me for the last 5 weeks, I would say it was since all the
25
days,
games.
right?
Overall, like we have a sample size of at least almost 20, 25 games, which
Yeah,
is not nothing.
the participation increasing more for the three
Get in
players
there.
together in the last 14 game. I would say to you 15 game. Like everybody contribute together. Like Coffee was 11 straight game with 1 point. Now we have 12 and 13 game, and then you have Zuski right now on the straight of 8 game at 14 point for 8 game. Now you have Slafkovsky with 6 games straight with 1 point, and you have, you know what I mean. So I can go all the way this way. So now it's not only one. It's all three generate positivity for the Montreal Canadiens on different ways, and it's 5 versus 5. It's a power play, and we have to give credit for all the three together. And but for me, yes, this is a line I will really focus to be together for maybe a long term for the Montreal Canadiens. So that will be my answer.
And the other thing to keep in mind is if you take their collective ages, they're probably younger than you and I, Coach. So uh, that says a lot. There's a long way to go for these guys. But just off as an offset of this, just want to throw it out there because I heard it yesterday by, I believe, Maxime Lapierre in one interview. And his suggestion, and I want to see what you guys think, his suggestion was, if not on this line, would you ever try Slafkovsky at center?
We've talked about I think we brought that up a couple months ago in our tap. So
We did. Yeah.
we should take credit. Obviously, Maxime Lapierre watches our show
Listen
because
to us.
that's something that we've talked about before. To be honest, I think Slafkovsky has many of the tools to be a center in the NHL. To be honest, like he's obviously got the size, everything else, but he's strong on the puck. Very, very good head in terms of a 200-foot game. Back checks, committed to playing the right way. Good vision. So really, I think he has all the attributes. Now the question is it's how would he be well used in that role, right? Because what you love about Slafkovsky is the ability to kind of win battles along the boards as a winger, especially in the defensive zone. Typically, the role of a winger is to, the defenseman is ringing the puck around the boards, and it's to kind of, chip that puck out and things like that, right? So, as a center, would they get the max value? Would they be maximizing his attributes as the puck battle guy? That we know that he can be as much, because as a center, you're skating a lot more. You're a lot more in movement versus going and engaging and winning battles along the boards, which I think is probably one of his biggest strengths. So, could they do it, and could he do it? I think he has all the attributes to play center in the NHL because I think he has good vision, but I'm not sure it would be the best use of his skills. That's my opinion.
I agree with you about that one for sure.
Yeah.
So you think he could, in your eyes,
I
Coach?
think he could. Yeah.
Yeah.
My only concern for him is skating all the way to go back and forth all the time. I think for him, the game have to be slower for him to execute his game and his move. I think for me, it would be better if he was a winger versus a center. Now, it's good to have a player like him because he's really responsible and he have a long stretch. He remind me a lot of Barkov. Look about Barkov. Yes, he's fast, but he's not like the fastest, like top 20 in NHL. But the way he play, everything is like Bergeron mind. Like it's calculate. It's really know exactly and spit the play very well. But Barkov versus Bergeron, I believe Barkov is stick. He's he's a 6'4". He uses his stick properly. He protect the puck very well.
Yes.
Plus, he have a good vision.
And that's the key thing, Coach. Right? And this is I know if we have an opportunity to talk about Caulfield, but you guys probably remember in the last couple of years, I talked about how when we used to talk about Jonathan Drouin, right? They used to be like, is impossible for him to win battles along the boards. And people say, well, it's just not his style. He's never going to be the kind, he's not strong enough to do that, da, da, da. And then I used to say, look at Harvey Pinard. He's not big, but he just knows how to use a stick. And you can teach that. You can teach how to win stick battles, positioning. You don't need to be big. But the thing with Slafkovsky is not only is he big and strong, but he's smart with how he just is. It's an instinctual thing for him. Like he knows how to position his body, how to, remember like Pavel
Absolutely.
Datsuk and Draisaitl were known for, they call them like canoe paddles, like their sticks are kind of like canoe paddles. It's to win, it's to do takeaways and stuff like that, right? So he kind of reminds me of that, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of years, guys, if he's top 5 NHL in takeaways, like a Mark Stone kind of player, right? Like he has that potential to, maybe he'll win a Selke trophy one day. Not impossible.
Yeah.
In hockey, Marco, I'm sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish off.
Marco, in hockey, we said, at the plus, you have to separate yourself with the puck and the opponent players. And when you become a good hockey player, you know exactly what to do between both object or the players and the puck. And that's where I think our HP is really good to go under the stick example, right? Or how to protect the puck on the board constantly. I think Joan Armia is one of the good hockey players, albeit in the NHL. You have many others, but Armia knows exactly how to use his body, his frame, and look back up. That's the reason why Barkov is successful. He knows exactly protect the puck, and that's really important at young. And I believe Slafkovsky, he could become that kind of player. So but he's a big forward, 6'3", 6'4". And look, Rantanen. Rantanen is another player I think Rantanen is underrated for his physicality of the game and the way he played the board. In my opinion, Rantanen, he scored a goal and he have a great shot. I know that, but the guy go to the net. The guy battled in the corner. He retrieved the puck a lot for McKinnon. And in my opinion, Slafkovsky could become that player if he's developed very well.
And coach, like I said, if you compare the evolution of, say, Jonathan Drouin and Caulfield, both guys who you could say, if they go into the corner, you would never bet even a little toonie that they're going to come out of that battle with the puck. Right. And for years, we're like, okay, it's not his first instinct, but you can learn and you can work at it and you can get better. Well, guess what? To me, just as exciting as the points that everybody was putting up on the first line over the last little while. And it's because I'm a hockey nerd. We're all hockey nerds, right? We look for those little things. To me, the most exciting thing is how detail-oriented Caulfield has been playing. Like, the puck battles that he's winning, like using his stick and just being in the right place. I find that just as exciting, if not even more exciting than, the really nice plays that we saw in the power play between Slafkovsky and Suzuki. So whenever we get into this conversation in the future, guys, where we're wondering like, okay, why is this guy not able to win battles like a Jonathan Drouin in the past, or a Mike Hoffman, for example, players like that, you can learn that. You can work and improve at those things. And it goes a lot to show the amazing work that Martin Saint-Louis is doing with Caulfield. Maybe that's why we're seeing the goal production go down, but in the end, it's going to be really, really good for the team.
I want to share, before we move with your headline, Mr. Nartap, Patrick said Slafkovsky on the NHL Edge metric, top skating speed, top 80. Just be careful about this. Sometimes I think that an NHL Edge is a really great place to learn about the shooting, everything like that. But it's not like I would say to you, Patrick, speed-wise, it's like Anderson, up and down. But for me, I was talking more about Slafkovsky on his edges. I'm talking about turn around, cut back, everything like that. It's not only specific on the speed of Slafkovsky. I was more, for me, it would be more generate is rank on the super chat on the winger versus the center. We have super chat from Larry Lavalley. Did it again. Here we go. Super chat, Larry Lavalley ever. Il did it again, Larry Lavalley. Thanks so much, Larry, for to contribute about this one over there. That will give me a chance to switch him on top to yours.
Now, I do this all in jest, and you know we love you, Rick, but I thought I'd bring it up since it was in line with Coach's main thumbtack today, and just say, Rick, I'm the right guy.
By the way,
we love you,
before we have to clarify one thing here, Marco, and
Sure.
our tap. First of all, Rick, it just gave us a super chat, $10, Mr. Rick. So I want to mention this, but before
And
that,
Rick,
we have to be honest. This is not coming from in our tap. It's Luciano Graziano put in our tap to do that. So the hot seat, the feeling of the hot is coming to in our tap, but behind that, it's Luciano. We have to clarify that one over there. So.
He's a troublemaker, that Luciano.
Luciano is always a troublemaker. He's an instigator. But and you know what? And in all fairness, Rick sometimes brings up some very good points. I'm in line with some of the things he says. But in the case of Slafkovsky, like I'm seeing the development in this game. I think we all are. Yes, it's a small sample size. We need to see this on a more consistent basis. And in all fairness, we did play Anaheim, but as Marco said earlier, give us this for now, and we'll work on it from moving forward.
Super chat.
This is that we have to stop. We have a special chat. Rick Bengal.
Let's do it.
Rick Bengal did it again. Rick Bengal, ladies and gentlemen, the man of the wars, ladies and gentlemen. We have to love him for sure. Thanks again, Rick, again, to continue to give us a lot of great contents here in the chat. Sorry about that.
It's great to be able to banter back and forth, and it's always in a respectful manner. Of course.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to bring up a couple points, and I'm sure we've either read about it or heard it on, in the last couple of days about some of the progression for Slafkovsky over the last little while. I think even Marco brought it up earlier that he really drives that line, and I would tend to agree with that as well. Like right now, he's working on, in terms of Montreal, longest point streak by a teenager in franchise history. He's if you look at, you want to look at some comparables, and again, I'm not making this comparison per se, but just to bring out numbers, since a lot of times we're driven by analytics. If you look at the last 92 games, pretty much Jack Hughes and Slafkovsky have identical points. I think 37 each. I think they just differ in the goals, and it's by one. And they have one goal differential in power play goals that they've scored. Now, I'm not saying obviously that Slafkovsky will reach the level of Jack Hughes, and who knows, maybe that it could happen. I don't want to dismiss it either.
They're very different players, like very, very different players.
Exactly. They're very different. They play a different style. Jack Hughes brings much more speed to the game as well. But then there's many attributes and assets that Slafkovsky brings as well. If you look at the last little while, he has 11 points in his last 11 games. He's got 18 points in his last 22 games. And over the last 2 months, he's at a 67-point pace, which, if you tell me this at the beginning of the year, I'd say, that's a great year that he can put together. And I'll take it any day. Now, when you look at age-wise, right now he ranks first in points among the under 21 players in the NHL. He ranks second in points among the under.
Super chat.
Yeah, he ranks number 2 in points among the under 22 years of age players in the NHL, and he ranks third in points among the under 23 point getters in the NHL. So I'm really pleased with his progress to date. But of course, we have to hit the brakes a little bit and just put everything always in perspective and say it's a great start, and we love what we've seen from where he's come from last year to this year. We want to continue to see that progress, and I don't see why it won't continue to grow that trajectory. But it takes time and it takes consistency, and we'll see if he can indeed do this over a long stretch of time. Marco, what do you think?
Did you want to do our dance coach first, or am I? We'll do it after.
Go ahead. We're going to do it after that. Just clarify. Lishanu said, only said, I'm only responsible for the picture.
Yeah.
And the wording.
That's awesome. Entertap, listen, let me say this. We don't know what Shane Wright's going to be. I think he's going to be a good hockey player. Would it surprise me if Logan Cooley ends up on average scoring more points per year than Slafkovsky? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Slafkovsky is not the highest scoring forward in that draft year. But even if that's the case, I don't care, because first of all, I think he's a beauty. Right? I just love him as a guy. I think he's a great presence in the locker room. So positive. He's very coachable. You can see he's a humble guy as well too. And I think, to be honest, guys, I see he even has leadership qualities that we're starting to see come out a little bit as well too, right? So even if other players are more productive, you guys know how I feel about just looking at points as to whether somebody is more valuable than another guy. For me, Slafkovsky is like I said, he was drafted, he was created on Earth to play with Suzuki and Caulfield. He was designed in a lab specifically to play with these two guys, right? So even if he has 20, 25 points less per season than Logan Cooley, but he's making Caulfield and Suzuki be the best version of themselves, I think we pick the right guy, right? So the thing that impresses me the most about Slafkovsky is his work ethic, his coachability. To me, those are things that are going to separate him as a player and as a person. And when you're drafting, the effort, the dedication that he's putting in to improve himself and being and I saw somebody earlier saying, "Hey guys, whoa, relax." I remember us getting this excited about Alex Galchenyuk. Okay, well, guess what, guys? Let's confront that topic. Okay, the two names that we're traumatized about in Montreal. There's two names: Alex Galchenyuk and KK. Right? Those are the two that got away. Right? The two high draft picks that had all this promise, started in the league really young, had a bright start, and then kind of pooped out, right? What makes Slafkovsky very different from both those guys is, and again, Alex Galchenyuk or KK, if you happen to be on YouTube clicking through and you hear me say this, no offense. Well, Alex Galchenyuk, I think he's in jail, so that might not be the case. But anyways, a whole other topic. But Slafkovsky is a good human being, right? And what we hear about KK is that he wasn't very coachable. He wasn't really receptive to listening to advice from other players and from coaching staff. And that's probably why he didn't start in the playoffs and kind of had to fight his way into the lineup, because Ducharme and even before that, Claude Julien was trying to get him to play the right way. And he just wasn't interested in hearing any of that at all. So to me, and I think that's a big reason why they chose Slafkovsky number one, is the human being that he is. And that's something often that they overlook. I'm not saying that Logan Cooley is not a good human being. From all reports, he's a very intense guy. He's going to be a very good player, and he is also a hard worker. But I think Slafkovsky was the perfect pick for Montreal for that time with what was available. So I agree. in that draft, right? Like, again, it's luck of the draw, guys. You talked about this. Montreal's been very unlucky with kind of their draft rankings and where they finish and everything else. But listen, like, I think we're all excited. And like I said, the guy is just a beauty, man. Like, tell me you don't like just smile ear to ear and just, how excited he is to be there. Like, you just root for a guy like that, right? So I think you're right. Intertap, definitely the right guy.
Rick, we love you.
Wow. I just saw Logan Stanley destroy Marco Storm in the corner.
Yeah.
Stern.
Yeah, that was
ouch. You guys, Marco, you nailed it. You nail it all the way. Like you said, I agree with you about that for sure. We can move on to mine, and I said, okay, let's consider what they start. So we finish with mine, and it's not again Rick Allal, but I think I want to bring this. And Marco nailed it. Honestly, I don't have to add more anymore. But not the same roadmap for everyone, for everybody, for every player draft in the NHL. Remember, guys, everybody is sit in the arena to make the team announce their name, and they go on the stage, they pick up the jersey, it becomes that the rights of the name of the players become with the team. But this is only one step of to go all the way to the NHL. It's nothing guaranteed when you are the first round pick, second round pick, third round pick, fourth round pick. What you have to go after that, but is to show to the NHL, you deserve to play in the NHL. And you have to go with exactly what Marco said. It's you have to be coachable. I think for Montreal Canadiens, they really, before they select a players, I believe for the culture they try to, and the foundation they try to build, the human being side of the players, his behavior, his maturity, his responsibility. And then after that, come with the talent and the skill together. And in my opinion, and I could be wrong next year, the next 3 years, Montreal Canadiens, we're not going to get a pure skilled talent over a player that have a great manners in life around them. So one is good manners, and I said, you have to go to bed at 9:00 p.m. You don't go to the bar, you have no girlfriend. I'm talking about the behavior of on ice, go to gym, want to learn, and they do their homework with the coaching staff to coach them. They ask people around that players, everything like that. For me, this is crucial when you select a players. And after that, the roadmap is not done yet. After you draft, you have to go now to go on the ice, and they have to prove it, and they have to teach him, they have to develop him. You need to improve to get better, progress, everything, and you have to use the word patient with that part. And then no guarantee is going to make it in NHL. You stay in NHL, and you become the player they was expect when you draft the players. But again, you have no roadmap at the end. You can be a player, go to NCAA, stay in the junior, go to American Hockey League, or stay 1, 2, 3 years more in European side. And you have nothing there. A player, Mr. Natap and Marco, cannot be great only at 19 years old, or at 20 years old, or at 21 years old, or at 22. Everybody's different. Everybody is unique. And you have no specific on my mind can set to me now. You have a specific roadmap for everybody. I don't believe it. I'm opinion. Everybody's friend, and for me, it comes with that. One thing I would say, Marco, you didn't mention that, but I know you'll be agree with me. Is, and Marco and our top two, the pressure come with the first overall pick draft at the end of the day. How the player can handle that part, and the inside a city like Montreal or Toronto on a Canadian market example versus playing in San Jose example. So the player have to feel that too. So at the end of the day, in my opinion, it was my headline. It was just the roadmap. It's unique, it's fun, and it's what they did with Slafkovsky, guys. They did not do it with Ray Backer. And the next one's going to pick up, I don't know yet. And they did it's fun way with Mezar, and I can go all the way. And not said all three is going to be a great hockey player, but the roadmap is not necessarily the right one, because sometimes it's not always successful. And you draft Mr. Nartap 232 players, I believe, on the NHL draft every year, over 200. Not all of them is going to make the NHL. Not many of them is going to make a great career in NHL, and then some of them is going to have a 100 game, 200 game, and that's it. That's all. So it's not easy to draft, but again, it's not easy to develop players and progress them to become better. And that's the reason I said to you, it's not the same roadmap for everyone, for each team, and for each player. So I don't know which one want to step up on this one.
I just want to mention, like, if you want confirmation of exactly what you're saying, Coach, I don't know if you've went and watched this yet, but go watch the documentary on Amazon Prime about Alexander Daigle. Right? It's exactly what you just said. It's an incredible documentary. Like it's a great, it's a great story because he's very vulnerable and very honest about kind of how that all happened, right? But it's exactly what you said, right? It's very hard to, to kind of try to guess how if somebody's going to be dedicated enough to continue to want to be hungry enough to want to continue to dedicate themselves and be hungry and be committed to the game. And I think that's what we're seeing from Slafkovsky. Like, I just don't see him somebody who's going to get, just content with where he is and stop evolving. Like, you just can see it in his personality that he's always going to be hungry to get better. One interview that I remember very, very clearly, I remember this interview with Max Pacioretty. And as soon as I saw this interview, he wasn't up with Montreal yet. He was still playing in Hamilton at the time. But it was, remember that time where he said, like, send me down to, if I'm not going to play top minutes, then just send me down to Hamilton because I want to play top minutes. But I remember this interview that he said, he's like, well, I want to be a great player in the NHL. It wasn't just, I want to make it to the NHL. And I like, but it was just the language that he used. I want to be a good, and then he corrected himself. He's like, I want to be a good. No, I want to be a great player in the NHL. And I remember when I saw that interview with Max Pacioretty, I'm like, this guy's dedicated, right? Like, I think he's got his mind in the right place. He's like, what St. Louis says, he's a hockey player. Well, that's, I think, what, we were seeing with Slafkovsky. He's a hockey player. He wants to get better. And that's really exciting. And you're right, Coach. Like, not everybody follows the same roadmap for sure.
And that's why they also take all the time that they do to interview these athletes. Like, if you were just to look at videotapes of them, I mean, there's not much to decipher. Like, they all have great talent when they're young and going through, the minors and so forth. But it's when you dig deep and you see what kind of character they have, what kind of personality they bring. Are they the type of individual that goes the extra mile? And you can get a lot of that through just simply questioning and presenting opportunities. That's why they have these psychological questions that they ask the players. What kind of animal do you relate to? On the
what
surface,
kind of animal are you? What kind of animal are you, Entertap? By the way, has anybody asked you that question? What kind of animal are you?
Has anybody asked me? No, nobody's asked me that. I don't know.
What kind of animal?
I don't know. I never thought about it. Maybe an owl. If you ask
like
Steve, he'll say that.
Yeah. Coach, what kind of animal are you?
Me?
Yeah, what kind of animal are
me,
you?
a tiger.
That's the cliche. That's a cliche one. You lose points in the interview for a tiger.
I see
what kind of animal are you, Marco?
I would have said owl too. So you kind of stole I like owl.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, sorry, Intertap, but I just thought it was interesting to see which animal you
No,
were.
it's and that's just the point. Like, they do a lot of research, and we saw a couple of documentaries where they were trying to make the decision whether to take Slafkovsky or Hugh or not Wright, and other players. Even this past year with Michkov, if that opportunity came up, and it did. And I like the fact that they bounce things around. It's not a unilateral decision that's made by one individual, but they take each other's perspectives and views into consideration. They analyze the data. They look at the intangibles more, just as much as they do where the player is skill wise, and they put it all together. And can they still make a mistake? Absolutely, right? I mean, that goes with anything in life. Sometimes you hire somebody for a job, and it turns out on the surface they seem great, but then after they turn out not to be so much so. But for the most part, it's a sound formula to go by in order to try to maximize the opportunity that you're going to get a solid player in the NHL.
So Antti has an interesting comment here, like how are, maybe we're projecting too much, and we don't know what's in the players' minds, right? But we do take a lot of time to kind of listen to their interviews and try to get insights into kind of some of the reporting that we hear about these players, right? So I don't know Slafkovsky, like I haven't done a psychological profile of the guy or anything like that, but I think they're pretty safe. Safe kind of analysis of kind of what we're seeing from the reporting about his work ethic and how he responds in certain situations, right? So, we're not mind readers or anything like that, but I think they're pretty fair assessments on kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, you don't have to go too deep to read somebody's character. Like you can tell by their actions, be it small or large, just what kind of individual they are and what kind of player they will be. Those things don't go away.
Absolutely about that. And I think also I will add this part, right? We said, we said many times at my players or people, I said, surround yourself with the right people. And more you are with them, you're going to be better around you. And I think this is part of what I believe for I read so many things about culture, positive team, everything like that. And they have a template about how they want their team to act as a players. And if you look Zuski background, if you look about Caulfield background, if you look about, you look those players around what they coming with Ken Hughes, they are been great at whatever they've been hockey players anywhere junior. You don't have a lot of bad story about them or their behavior. And most of them, think about this, they are leader. They've been captain before in the past. And maybe laugh at me about this, but this is very important when you have some kind of leadership inside the room. Kaden Coley, captain. Jordan Harris, captain. Jaden Strouble, captain. And Nick Gignac, captain. I can go all the way this way. This is really where I believe the Montreal Canadiens are really focusing. And they not let them alone too. They are consistent of eyes. They have helping them for sure. Yes, Luciano is right. Money, girl, drink, everything, famous, everything like that. You can maybe fall in the in the wrong direction with wrong people. But I think Montreal Canadiens are really careful about that right now with the staff and the management they are right now. I just want to open that door because a lot of people think that way. And I would just consider what Andy said about that.
And that's a good point. A very good point to bring up.
All right. So we can conclude, guys.
Coach, you were right that our headlines all kind of like, guys, we don't plan these headlines. We don't talk about the headlines or anything, but our headlines were like perfectly synced today. It was brilliant.
We want to thank Rick Bengal for that, and we help also for the help of Luciano on those headlines tonight. So we appreciate a lot about this one. Let's talk about headline. This is
rated R. Rated R.
Yes, really. Jeez. That's the reason I never been drafted for the Montreal Canadiens. Will never happen.
Not dedicated.
I love that one over there. I like people in the chat, guys. First of all, we forgot we have a super chat for friend Luke. Did it? I didn't forget. I was just waiting for the headline. So whatever is about his heart. And I think I want to mention this. So Luke did a super chat for us. Here we go for Luke. You did it again. Super chat number 3, the hat trick of the night, complete again by our friend. We appreciate that to contribute about this one. We got Larry Lavallée, Rick, and Charles, by the way, exploration. And thanks again, Mr. Charles. Welcome back, by the way. We not see you a lot of time here, but always a pleasure to welcome you back. We're going to go a little bit, guys, on the question, if you don't mind. We have a couple of people picking up a question. One is from Gary, said, can Slafkovsky be the best player on the Habs in the future?
I don't see why not. I mean, if he continues this trajectory, I don't think he'll ever. And again, this is my opinion, and I really don't have a lot to base it on. I don't think he'll be 100-point type of guy, but I think he has the ceiling to go, 80 plus if he really puts things together, and that's enough to be a leader if he's doing what he's has to do and he's getting 80 points a year. That's a point a game practically. Then you're getting that great production. Now, is it at the same level as some other number ones? No, probably not. Like there's a lot of superstars, and as we were saying yesterday, there's franchise and generational players that come out of certain drafts, and so you're not going to meet that, and so you can't make that comparison and say, well, he's a number one, and McDavid was a number one. I guess Slafkovsky's a failure. No, you can't look at it that way. It's an unfair comparison to make, but given what they can bring to the game, if they can maximize their ceiling, then you've done your due diligence in that particular draft year.
It's a very interesting question. Yeah, very, very interesting question. Like, I think it really depends how you define who your best player is. A lot of people, like we've talked about, think, okay, whoever is the guy with the most points or goals is their best player. I legitimately believe that Slafkovsky will maybe be their best player because of the impact that he's going to have in the playoffs, for example, right? Like, unfortunately, wingers don't win the Selke trophy that often. It's usually centers. But I think Slafkovsky really does have the potential to be a really, really strong two-way player that really impacts the games all over the ice. Like I said, we're starting to see leadership qualities in him. So I think I wouldn't be surprised that if Montreal goes on a deep playoff run, we're watching the playoffs and we're like, yeah, Slav has been the best player for the Montreal Canadiens. He might not have the most points, but he scored like really big goals, or he, was just driving play and things like that, right? So I think he could. I think he absolutely could be Montreal's best player.
Great point. King said, "Do you think Joan Amir has changed over a new page since returning to the NHL?"
I think Sandy, we talked about this, that every coach that's been in Montreal since Armia has been there, all love the guy, right? Like they all want him to succeed. They all see what we see, which is, I know the fun thing, everybody calls him Mario Armia because sometimes he looks like Mario Lemieux, and so everybody sees that, right? But I think Sandy, we nailed it when he said that Armia right now, I think, is just in a good place. I think going down to the AHL really kind of put things in perspective for him. And right now he's just found a really, really nice pocket for him on the team. Like, it's not the fourth line. He's not having to be, top line minutes or anything like that. Like, I think third line role for him right now. I like the potential of a Newhook, Armia, and a Wah line, which I guess really technically would be our second line right now, just because of all the injuries. But yeah, I think right now it's probably the most consistent we've seen Armia play. But compared to a guy, again, we talked about Josh Anderson in the last show. The thing with Armia, even when he's not really producing, or maybe even when he's not at his best, being as impactful in the game, at least with him though, he has a role on the team. He's killing penalties. That he's going to win, board battles and things like that. There's going to be times where he's more involved and he's being more impactful, creating plays and things like that. But that's the thing. The only reason that people shit all over Armia is the salary. If he was making $2.5 million a year, nobody would have an issue with it, with what he brings. So I think right now he's just in a good place. St. Louis has done a good job kind of working with him. And like I've said many times, I bring up Jonathan Drouin. That was a big mistake with Jonathan Drouin. They never gave him a role. They never said, you know what, Jonathan, don't worry about all the noise. We just want you to kill penalties and do this, right? Or we just want you to do this, and just build up his confidence by giving him very specific responsibilities and build him up. So I think they've done a great job working with Armia. And I think, like I said, it's the most consistent that we've seen him, I think, in his entire time, other than maybe the playoff run in 2021 where he was amazing with Corey Perry and Eric Stahl. Yeah.
Yeah. And considering his age and experience, I think it speaks a lot to him, the fact that he went down to Laval without complaining. He knew he had to improve his game. He went down there. To his credit, he did improve his game. He came up here, and he's been performing a lot more consistently. And again, I'm not looking just at the points, which he has been getting here and there, but how he plays the game and the battles that he wins and what he offers, especially on the penalty kill. I think that's special. The only other thing I would add, Marco, I guess to the Drouin comment, I think he was put in a very unfair situation. I think with the fact that they traded away Sergachev, that was a big price tag, and it put the additional pressure on him to have to perform. And so, coming over, the intent, at least from the management perspective, was we finally got our number one center, and this guy will produce close to, if not 100 points a year. And unfortunately, it didn't translate, and he wasn't able to cope to that pressure. And then afterwards, it becomes a mind game, right? If you're losing it in here to battle, it translates on the ice, and that's what we kept seeing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what my point is, right? Like with all the great things Saint Louis has done since he's been here, that was probably the one project that failed. He was given that the one project that he wasn't really able to kind of like really turn around was Drouin. Again, like I'm not saying from the beginning they should have had him killing penalties when he was first signed, for that big contract, right? But for me, if I was Martin Saint Louis or even Dominic Ducharme when he came in, right? Like remember, they bring in Dominic Ducharme. He has this history with Jonathan Drouin. So everybody's like, okay, finally, we're going to have a Jonathan Drouin whisperer, like somebody who knows him and will, knows his history and all that. I think the best way to build up a guy, like I said, is, you know what? Don't worry about all the noise. We know there's a lot of pressure associated. Like, forget all that. Right now, your role on this team is this, this, and this. If you, and as coach, like you've been in locker rooms, where players feel the most pressure is the pressure they put on themselves and the pressure that they feel from their teammates, right? If a player feels like their teammates know what they bring and the teammates are supporting and they recognize that guy is valuable and delivering their role on their team, they can ignore it. It helps them get through all the noise that they hear in the media, right? Because they know they're in the locker room and they know that the guys have their back and they can look their teammate in the eye and they can look their teammate in the eye and say, hey, you know what? Like, I'm doing my part to make this team win games, right? So to me, that's the best way to build a guy up, right? Give him a role, make him feel good. His teammates see that he's contributing in a very specific way, and then you build it up. And then all of a sudden, you feel good about yourself. Whoop, wait a minute. Your production starts increasing because you're a bit looser and you feel like you're contributing, and it kind of snowballs from there. So I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Armia.
Great. You guys, you said a lot of things about Armia. We said, any players, once they start to be thinking that way, they have doubt, they are not sure, they not feel confident, they don't believe, they don't have no specific role. They are right now worries about things they cannot in charge when controlled. They are the biggest enemies for me is Joan Armia himself. He have a fragile mindset, Joan Armia. He is really close with the psychology of the team or the sport psychology of the team, constantly on the program with that. Secondly, I think for me, his turnover of his season is when he got a meeting with Martin Saint Louis. One, they told him they have to go to Laval Rocket. For me, those information are not in front of the public, on the eyes of the public. They only see Martin Saint Louis behind the bench. They only see the outcome of the game. But you have a lot of things you don't follow a team. What's going on in the practice, how they communicate with the players, and how they all really care about each player. One thing, Martin Saint Louis, and we're like, I got some heat here. Said Jacky, everything. Said people, Martin Saint Louis does not like Jacky, everything like that. I said right away, it's not true. Because Martin St. Louis care about each one of them. It could be guys, he spent minute time with Michael Peseta. Do you really don't believe 2 minutes he does not have other things to do in his life when he work at Montreal Canadiens 60 hours per week and then said, I'm going to take care about Michael Peseta. Why? Because each one of them, he lead by example. He want to show the team he care about each one of them. That give confidence. That give the players to really pay the people around him pay attention, and they really care about those kind of players. And that's the reason I believe Martin St. Louis is really good asset at this moment where Montreal are as a franchise with the Montreal Canadiens. So I was just sharing for Armia. It's all start right there. It's inside is 6 inches right here. And when he feel comfortable, that's where he become a better hockey player. Yes, the salary come with. Quick question from Gary. Would you like to sign him again next year after his contract is over, Marco?
Sorry, I was reading, Coach. I was reading the chat. Sorry, what was the question?
Question is about no, so it's all good. And now you feeling, you can see my feeling, how I feel sometimes. It's not because when you talk, it's not important. It's just like I have to feel the right. So, question is about Gary asking you after his contract is over with Montreal next year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I read that question earlier. I don't know. Like, maybe, I think at that point, you're mentioning, Coach, like, Montreal's big focus right now is to fill out, at the very least one elite, kind of like top 6 guy and probably 2. What Montreal has a lot right now is a lot of candidates to play in their bottom 9, right? Like you have your Owen Becks, players like that. There's a lot of candidates that are going to be there. You were saying the same thing you don't think Harvey Pinard will be there in 3 years because there's going to be bigger, faster, better players that are there, right? So it's not impossible, but I would be surprised that, there's at that point, you hope if a lot of the players that Montreal is growing, like Slafkovsky might need a new deal soon, and Hudson and Gooley and things like that. So you might be looking for players to play in your bottom 9 that are on entry-level contracts, rather than somebody who's going to make maybe even 1.5 million a year or something like that. So it's not impossible, but I would be surprised.
Well said, enough that.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, he doesn't fit into the long-range plans, and I think at the end of his contract, it's really going to be up to Armia. I think that if he's willing to play, if he's happy here and he's willing to play for a little bit less, there's always a role that he can have on the team, even if it's just within the context of killing penalties. But I think he has more to offer than just that. I think
he's going to be 31, though, right? He would be 31 by the time.
That's why. So it would have to be like almost a year-to-year or a maximum 2-year contract, but it would have to be considerably less than what he's making right now. Yeah. I wouldn't go any higher than that. Yeah.
Awesome. A lot of great comments, guys and guys. A lot of people pop up at 26. And sometimes I run, and I want to apologize. I try to listen what Marco and Artab said because it's very important, and then I have to follow the chat. And sometimes I just cut their name. Like I call him 26, I call him NR or whatever it is. So I apologize. I don't feel your name all the way on the chat. I try to welcome everybody and talk with each one of you. So hopefully you feel okay about that one there. Look, I think we don't need to see the review of the game. But for me, guys, this was the most exciting game of the year in Montreal Canadiens yesterday. I make my video of the day that way, honestly. And when you see the people and they're playing it that way, because we have a good game in Montreal. But I want to share with you guys something happening during the game yesterday. I said to you guys, Martin St. Louis, look the reaction of the people about Gignac when he come back after his fight about Johnson. The players welcome him back. The coaches welcome him back. you see Martin St. Louis going to talk to him on his shoulder, talk to him. And this is what that I believe they built a great foundation, Marco, in our tap. And it was excited for sure during the game yesterday. 5 goals, and you got everything. The first goal-winning game by Jake Evans yesterday. 2 goals by the captain, Nick Zuski. 18-19 goal. We have a goal of Juraj Slafkovsky, his 11th goal of the year yesterday, with a first time with 3 points in one regular game. And then finally, we've got the first goal of Brendan Gignac in NHL. And of course, the first shootout of Cayden Primeau from Montreal Canadiens and the first shootout of Montreal Canadiens this year in NHL. So I said, okay, but Mr. Nartat, we know Montreal is not going to finish really high on the NHL draft. So I said, before I go to bed, I need to do, we have Valentine night and everything, and then, we hit some watermelon. I said, I have to finish this part. She was beside me. I said, look, you don't know about hockey, but I can tell you one thing. Would you like to sleep very well beside me? She said, what are you talking about? I said, look. And then what I did, Mr. Tap, the Montreal Canadiens select number 1, Martin St. And I said, this is the best could happen at the Valentine night. You go in the bed and the Montreal Canadiens select number 1, Mr. Tap. And
absolutely.
And that's happening for me last night. So, but again, really entertaining game yesterday. And you got everything, Mr. Natap, yesterday again between. And then I want to finish with this one. I didn't finish after this one. I want to have one more thing to do, guys. It was honestly, you got also that entertaining night. You have 3 of them who have a hat trick all the hour. Cooley, Kovacevic, and Jakai put a little bit more their ingredient and the recipes of the soup, of the sauce of the Montreal Canadiens last night. So really quickly, 30, 40 seconds, each one of you. Marco, I know you got really excited about the game last night.
I was hyped, Coach. Like I almost ordered some pom poms from Amazon so I could be using them today. Like I try not to be too much of a fanboy. I try to be analytical and kind of level headed. But again, we know it's against Anaheim and everything. But there you go. The Enertop got balloons, so that shows you how awesome last night was, right? So. So I don't have the kind of budget Enertap has for props, so I wasn't able to get anything. But it was really exciting. Like I remember that Bob Cole, the great call that he used to have. Like everything is happening, literally everything was happening last night. Right? Like anything that you could want. All the first great video today, Coach. By the way, all the firsts that we saw last night. Everything from Gignac and Primeau and Evans' first game-winning goal. Just amazing, just a lot of fun. They're not all going to be like that, guys. So enjoy it for sure. Again, like there's a lot of other interesting things for us to analyze and to look at. And we spent a lot of time today talking about how excited we are about how the first line is gelling, right? So just a really fun night. And like I said, I don't know if you believe me, man, but the thing that I got the most excited about was how Caulfield is playing, not just in terms of putting up points, but just it blows my mind. Like Coach, like maybe that's something you can track, but I'd be curious to see like what the difference is in his one-on-one puck battles, like his 50-50 puck battles. Like it would be interesting to see a comparison of his game over, say, the last 15 games versus the 15 before that, because from an eye test perspective, it's not even close. The work that he's putting in is. And to me, like I said at the beginning of the season, I'm okay if Cole Caulfield is only a 35 or 40 goal scorer in the NHL, but plays like that, or even if he's a 35 goal scorer in the NHL and he plays like that, and he has more assists and he's more balanced that way, Montreal is going to be better off for it. So to me, that was my biggest takeaway. I know there's a lot of flashy things, and I know Slafkovsky and Suzuki are kind of like the stars of the show last night. But kudos to Caulfield, man. He's really, really putting in the work.
A great point about that, Marco. Before time to talk about the game, who he remind me, because I follow a lot, but I live in Florida, so I was close more to watching the Panthers go to the game a lot of time. And one player we said, I know you're going to say, "Oh my God, you're crazy, coach," but Jonathan Huberdeau He's maybe at 26, 25 years old. Look, his defensive minus 40, minus 35, and minus 40. And then, boom, a new coach around with the Panthers, and then he got responsible. He played on a PK at some point with the Panthers guys with Barkov. And he become more structured about his defensive side of the game. He get better. Now, he's not going to be Patrice Bergeron, but my point behind that is every one of them, a lot of people say Zegras is not good on defensive zone. A lot of people said Nylander is not good on defensive zone. Every one of them can learn to play good on defensive zone if they give them the right time to teaching them to play properly. But yes,
and they have to dedicate, the player has to dedicate themselves to it. And again, the thing that we were the most worried about is because of his size, it was going to be impossible for him to ever win those 50-50 puck battles. But again, like compared to Jonathan Drouin, he's showing us that even if you're not a huge guy, you can learn how to position and use your stick to, you're not going to win all of them. And sometimes you're going to end up flat on your ass trying to do it, but you can win puck battles and you can be in the right place, be in the way. So very impressive.
Sometimes, Marco, it's not about only battle. It's about maybe helping a teammate is in the corner battle for the puck and then pick up the puck, right? And those or interception. I think Niski is not recognized enough for those kind of situations or intercept the puck with his stick on the defensive zone to break a pass on the lane or something like that. About Nick Niski for sure. Not top. Sorry, I cut you, but Ducks Habs game last night.
Yeah, for me, I mean, we've mentioned a lot of the positive things that were obvious to the eye, but I found, and I would sum it up with the last picture that you showed just a little while ago, and you showed the 3 fights. You could even call it 4 if you include Strubal's little jostling that he had as well. And to me, what that showed is the coming together of a young team at the same time. You can tell that they have each other's backs. They're not going to allow anybody to take pot shots at them. We saw that. It was interesting yesterday when it looked like Savard was going to jump in and help out Goulet, but Goulet said, "Leave it to me," and he took on Henrique. And that speaks volumes because the other players, they witnessed this. And Pezzetta was on the ice too, but he stood back and said, "Okay, he's got it. He's got it under control." And we saw it with Struble. We saw it with Jacky. We saw it. Who was the other one that had a fight as well? It escapes me right now, but Kovacevic, and he's done that a couple games in a row now. And to me, that's standing up for your team, and that takes you far. Even in the lack of talent, those intangibles are necessary to build that team chemistry that we always talk about. And eventually the talent starts to filter through, and that's how you put a team together.
Yeah, and just before we come off this, guys, looking at it from the Ducks' perspective, Pat Verbeek is probably not a very happy camper right now, right? Like what we saw at the end of the game last night, like guys thinking, okay, like we'll try to kind of look like we're tough here and try to kind of have some skirmishes at the end of the game. Like we're worried like all throughout the game, right? Like Pat Verbeek is not going to, be impressed by a couple of guys like, try, oh, well, look, I care. I got into a fight at the end of the game. No, like he doesn't care about that. So not a lot of positive signs from Anaheim last night. To me, like I'm seeing the comment from Luciano about Toronto, and maybe that's a transition into what we're going to be talking about a bit later. But like like you need to kind of like if you're going to fight for your honor, you need to do it the right way. And Anaheim last night, like not only did they were terrible defensively, they didn't really generate that much, but there was no pushback at all, right? Like, to me, what Anaheim did at the end of the game with those little fights or whatever, Johnson. That's not really, like to me, that's not really pushback. Very disappointing game for McTavish too. Like he's a guy that you kind of like expect that he's going to play like a gritty game. And
I don't want to give an excuse, but he was just back for an injury.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm again not an excuse. I agree with you. He was not there. I'll be honest with you guys. the Duck was not there from the top to the bottom. I cannot say one specific player have a good game, although the Duck stall saved a little bit better. The score 5-0, it could be 8-0, I believe. And I would say to you, what was really like was like discouraged for me is the turnover they did on the defensive part of the defenseman. Like they gave the puck like lazy play, like not want and win it, like they're willing to battle for the puck, or they just give a puck back. And in Montreal, how many times the turnover Montreal did in the offensive zone? That would be one of the best team in Montreal in that area of the game. Again, it was not Montreal; it was Ducks play bad overall.
Yeah, I think it's a combo of two. Like, yeah, I think Montreal was all over it last night. Hey guys, did you see that stat though for Gudas? On a team like Anaheim, he's plus 20 on the road this year.
Yeah, Kudos is plus 20 on the road. He is the number one in NHL. I think Senko is number one, but you're right.
Wow. Yeah. How's that even possible? I just don't understand how he could do that. It's crazy.
I think some of the Montreal youth were reading our chat last night when we got onto the topic of who has the better prospects in the system. And it was an overwhelming Anaheim, and I think they took a little bit of offense to it.
Maybe. I would still take Anaheim's pipeline.
No, you have to be careful. One game is not show exactly, right? Exactly. But if you look about what Cronin said after the game, he said, "Put this in the trash can, and we move on for the next game. That's it. We don't need to talk about this game anymore. It's already behind me, and we have to move on." They already know in the locker room what they think about the game. So I don't need to tell them after that. We have to move on to the next tomorrow to win the day tomorrow. And I think he was absolutely right about that. So thanks for being with us tonight. Don't forget, guys, to click on the likes. That'd be awesome. A lot of people talk about the performance of the Ducks tonight. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to slightly a little bit go left and right. And it's going to be a little bit subject. And then at 45, I'm going to bring another subject in NHL. So let's start with that one over there. I know it's going to be interesting, as again, I don't want to put anybody in the hot seat, but the Gallagher return after 5 games of suspension with Montreal again. I don't think so. I heard one comment. We missed Gallagher during that time. Whatever we lose 7-2, whatever they won 5-0, the name of Gallagher did not pop up. Although the fact I missed the question of Allen 2 weeks ago. But it is what it is. Gonna go back. We'll have to get better. That's one thing I have to
Sebastian's
about this. I need to get better. So Gallagher return, guys. What do? Who leave the building, Mr. Nartap? What the Montreal should do?
I was gonna say that's because Sebastian hasn't been in the chat. Otherwise, you would hear it. It's interesting. I don't know. I guess you got to look at either maybe a Yolanen. Like I haven't really sat down to think about it too deeply. I mean, that's about the only one that I can think of right now. Am I missing anybody that would have to as a forward?
Yeah, like you can make a case for Pearson, but that they're wanting to get him some minutes now, and so that's not going to happen. Pizzetta, like I know Coach doesn't feel always that he brings much.
He has a role,
but yeah, I think he plays his role pretty well. To me, I think I've been vocal about my disappointment in Ylonen this year. I think probably the most disappointing player for me this year has been Ylonen. Has he had every opportunity? No, but he's definitely had some opportunities, right? Remember, I think in the chat, Coach, the other night, you were talking about RHP and whether he'll be, or somebody was saying, oh, this injury is really going to endanger RHP's role with Montreal because other players are going to come creeping up behind him. I don't think that's the case. I think RHP is very much valued by the management team and by the coaching. But Ylonen for sure is somebody that's going to, if he's not hearing the footsteps behind him already, he should be listening more carefully because he has not made a very strong case for himself in any way. I can't really, like, you look at his tools and, he's got everything you want. Like I'm not going to say he's big, but he's tall, like he's a little bit slight frame, but decent size, amazing skater, he's got a shot. He's got all the tools, guys. He's not able to put it together. So I don't know. time to send
The only
a
other
message.
the only other thing, Marco, is if you sort of want to improve Laval a little bit, you might send Raw down again and help that team out because they were really on a roll. And it's not that they've slowed down, but I mean, he saw a stint here in Montreal, and he has definitely a place here. So at this
Yeah.
point, why not go down, develop your skills a little bit more, help out the team, and we'll see you, in September, kind of.
Yeah, like that's probably what will end up happening. I just really like having Roy up there because I just like him and
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
watch
Yeah.
him
He's
play.
a great player.
But
Yeah.
from a strategic perspective, it makes them it makes the most sense to do that. But I still hope they don't, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes sense.
I like great comments on the chat for everybody. I said, look, the right decision should be keep Joshua Roy. If you go by rewards and by the performance of the players like Allen deserves to be back in Laval. He does not deserve to be with Montreal Canadiens. But the circumstance of waiver and not exempt waiver
Yeah.
and what we added this season, what Laval represent right now, where they are, and I think they want to be sure that Laval make the playoff. If you consider all this decision as a business operation hockey right now, they will say, look, the right decision is to keep Roy, send down Ireland. But because what we add at this moment, keep Ireland again, send Joshua Roy and Laval, give him more minute to have more minute, and then we can deal with Ireland anyway. For the rest, he's not 32 game with no goal for Jesse Ireland. So that I believe that
Or
will
just move
happen again. But
or
put
just
this
move
all
on.
together, guys. The problem behind that is not this. Is they have an extra goaltender and the roster, and they block another a way to bring another players in the roster from Montreal Canadiens. And I've not said you have to remove Allen or Primo, whatever they want to do. But again, that situation complicates a little bit more the situation as a forward and the defenseman on the roster under Martin St. Louis. And that for me, the right decision, it would be Allen and Laval, keep Roy. But because of that situation, you have to send back Roy and Laval, and then you keep Allen. You still have 29 more games to score at least one goal until the end of this. But for me,
Or another option, coach. Another option is just move on from Ylonen. Like, guys, we have a lot of assets, right? Like, and we have a lot of NHL contracts. Like, what are we doing with this guy? Like, he's not like you're not going to build him up again. Where okay, he was a second round pick. From an asset management perspective, I'm sure Kent Hughes is like, I would prefer not to move Ylonen for anything less than say like a third round pick, so that you're not have a lot of value loss on that. But that's not happening. Just realistically, it's not going to happen. Ylonen is not going to get you much. So just
But it might
either
be
if shop him,
it
maybe
might
you
be
get like a
yeah, it might be a bit early to do that. I see your point, but I don't want to quite give up on him yet. I think if you give him a stint in Laval, that
he's
that
not going to
might.
make it through waivers. He's not going to make it through waivers.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Yeah. So just trade him for a fourth. Get like get something else. Like get something else that you need. Like get an 8. Like here's a good strategy, coach. They want to bolster Laval, right? So trade him for a veteran AHL player to help Laval. If that's a real organizational objective, he's not going to be part of the plan here. You don't want to lose him for nothing. Send him to an NHL team. Go get like a veteran AHL guy that's really going to help Laval, kind of make a push here.
yeah. But which team would like to do that? Which team would like to have Allen in the lineup right now?
I think there's a lot of like if he's not going to pass waivers, if he like if he's going to get claimed on waivers, then you just you just send an email to all GMs, say, okay, listen, we have this player, we know he's going to be picked up on waivers. If anybody's interested, like either we're just going to sit him for, or whatever, but if anybody's interested, what we're looking for is a good AHL veteran. Like a San Jose, they're looking for B-level prospects to fill sweaters like that. That would be a good. I would look at teams like that, right? Like they're looking to take shots to see if they can get some young players to come into the organization. They don't have a lot of depth in their pipeline. So, but maybe San Jose's AHL affiliate has a lot of good AHL veterans. So there might be a fit. Like I don't know all the AHL rosters that well, but there's got to be a team out there that's willing to take a shot with a former second round pick that, you know, has some NHL games for and be willing to give up like an AHL asset. That's
Great.
what I would do.
Yep. So it will be interesting about that. What will be the next for him for sure. The next thing, guys, Slafkovsky next contract.
Too early.
Yeah,
8 years
to talk.
I would lock him up for, you know, my strategy, guys. I like locking up. I look like, if you look at Ottawa, I like what Ottawa's done with their young core, right? Like cost certainty. That's what you want. You want cost certainty. You want to be able to build around a core group of guys. I much prefer that. Like if you look at Toronto, you know, like they get into weird positions with, like, you know, 5-year contracts with Matthews and shorter terms with Marner and things like that. For me, I like the model where you lock up. You know, that's the pattern that we're seeing from Kent Hughes, like with both Suzuki and Caulfield. Now we'll see kind of how things progress here, like what that number would look like. But strategically speaking, I always like the idea of locking up your core assets long term. I don't see any downside doing that at all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you know you have a talent like his, you want to lock him up for the maximum, the 8 years that you have, because once you start looking at that 5th year and onwards, that becomes a bargain deal if the cap keeps rising. So I don't disagree with that. And you can always structure the contract in different ways. You can make it front loaded, back loaded, like to suit the needs of the salary cap for the upcoming year. So I'm not too concerned about it. But my thing right now is it's way too early to really start discussing numbers with Slafkovsky. Let's let him finish the year and maybe go through next year as well, and then we have
we'll have
more
plenty
of
of time to worry and debate about that. Like there'll be a coffee with Suzuki conversation.
All right. Doc skate on the Indian territory. Nobody watched him, but obviously have an Indian behind the tree. Got his cam and get out and to figure out Doc. Doc, obviously, it was a scoop scrutiny by someone. So Doc is on the ice. So great news for the Montreal Canadiens for that one over there. So we'll see how he's going to recover it, but he's not going to play next week. Don't expect that.
No, he's not playing this year at all. Period.
Over there,
he's not going to play any games this year.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Jake Allen out for now, but I'm going to keep this for another subject. I think I don't want to get there. I want to talk about finishing this show at 10:45. Then I'm going to finish with a couple of things. The Montreal Canadiens prospect Lane Hudson. 10 goals already, 25 assists, 35 points. He's on fire since he come back for the World Junior Championship. Lane Hudson is going to get maybe a better year overall. He is about I think last year he scored 15 goals, and he still have over 25 games to play the next couple of weeks, a month. So we'll be interested with Lane Hudson, but consistent performance whatsoever. I don't know you see a sequence yesterday, Monday night, but Celebrini loses the puck on the offensive zone. You have a turnover, 3 versus 2. Hudson come back, and he back checking the guys. He steal the puck with an angling the situation about that. Again, for me, Lane Hudson is going to be a great hockey player in NHL, not only a power play. Of course, sometimes he keep the puck a little bit longer. He make mistake in NCAA, but the guy have a potential to be a great hockey player for the Montreal Canadiens. Owen Beck, 25, 26 goals this year. Beck have a great offensive participation. He got traded for the Saginaw from the Peterborough. By the way, the point per game average of Hudson, 125 last year, 142 this year. Same situation with Becky is increasing his number, the point per game for Owen Beck. So this is a great play, a great way to see Beck. It's going to be for a second time on the Memorial Cup this year, by the way. That's great. Logan Mayo have an amazing, great year right now in American Hockey League on the offensive side, better on this defensive zone. He become now the best defenseman for Laval Rocket on different ways, and they use him very well, and he show the reason why he was drafted 31 by the overall pick. I think for me, I would not call him up in Montreal. Maybe if Laval is out of the playoff, or maybe have an urgency, but it would be maybe for 1 game, 2 game, and then come back and Laval. Then David
Quick,
Rebacker is doing well overall for the last couple of games, and they are for me the 4 best prospect they have right now in the pipeline for the Montreal Canadiens. So overall, I would like to hear from each one of you what you think so far from them players, and in our time we're going to start.
Let's start from the back up here with Ryan Bacher. I mean, he was playing this year on a very weak team, and it's tough. Even though the ice time was there, it's tough to properly develop when you're not surrounded with much positive talent around you. But his game has come around, and there's speculation that he could come up not too far from now. So we'll wait and see what happens there. I think things are on track. I like some of the plays he's making. From the highlights I'm seeing, he's looking very, very sound. With Logan Mailloux, I would say, 1 year has made such a big difference for him. He's really acclimatized well. He's making less mistakes. He's working on his defensive side a lot more. But offensively, he's contributing. He's a force to be reckoned with, and I think it bodes well for Montreal's back core in the future. Beck, I've always held him in high esteem. I think that he's the one that should replace Evans at some point, and possibly as early as next year. I know his numbers were not great at the beginning, but we saw how a change in environment there and playing for a better team led to much better production out of him. And Hudson, what more can you say? He's got nothing else to prove at the college level. I know there's speculation he might return, but I would say at this point, if he can make it, bring him up, or at least put him at Laval or whatever the case might be. But I think he's ready for the next challenge in his career.
So a couple of things here, Coach. For Beck, I think, watching some of his games in the OHL and especially at the World Juniors, I'm not as concerned about his offensive output. Like he should be doing, like, as an overager almost there in OHL. Like you suspect that he should be, putting up some numbers, right? But let's be real. Like what his true calling is in the NHL is going to be like a third line center. That's what we hope his ceiling is going to be, right? My biggest criticism, penalty killer, third line center. But to be honest, like people tend to when you think Owen Beck, you think, oh yeah, like he's going to be a good third line center, which means in your mind, okay, he's good. He's a good, responsible player. Hold on. Like, yes, he's amazing at faceoffs, but there's a lot of maturity left to be developed in his game in terms of really playing the right way. Still a lot of holes in his game on the defensive side, in my opinion, having watched some of his games in the OHL this year, and especially what I saw at the World Juniors. So not a finished product in that way, for sure. So a little bit more to see there. Don't have much more to add on the other guys, but I do have a question for you about a question that the Habs management might face here. When Reinbacher is ready to come to North America, do you think it makes sense for Montreal to have both Mailloux and Reinbacher playing in Laval at the same time? Because they both play on the same side, right? So you got two right-handed defensemen, which both of them you're going to want to give them lots of minutes, right? So does it make sense to have both? Because I think in our minds we all felt Mayu would probably need another year in the AHL, and most of us probably even thought Reinbacher might, because he hasn't really played in North America. But I don't know if I love the idea of having, because you want one of your studs to be like Mayu right now, right? Like you said, Coach, he's their best defenseman. He's in all situations, playing lots of minutes. But now you're going to start dividing that ice time between two right-handed defensemen. I'm not sure I love that idea. So, what do you guys think they'll do there? Like, does it kind of force you to? And then you have Barron on top of that too. So there's a bit of a. I guess it's a good problem to have, that we have a log jam all of a sudden on the right side. But in terms of giving them the right time and the minutes they need to develop, are you guys a little bit concerned with having both of them play at Laval at the same time?
Well, there's a succession there, Marco. I think Reinbacher should take over Meilu's spot at Laval because, as we said before, I think he'll need that extra year just to sort of acclimatize to the North American game a little bit more, where he's playing with players more of his same talent level. With Meilu, I've seen the growth. Like, if he continues this and has a good training camp, why not bring him up? I think he's ready for it. If not, I mean, he can always go back down. But why not? Why not try to bring him up? I think that's
So
sort of the succession.
Yeah. So you start like your bottom pair next year be looking like which we saw them play a lot in Laval together. So you have Jack-Eye, Mayu as your bottom pair next year.
Not bad,
Coach. What do you think?
For a bottom pairing? Yeah.
I don't see no problem with that part, of course. I think also that power play Mayu and then Reinbacher play more PK, everything like defensive. So I don't think so. I think that'll be good for them. Maybe one of them could maybe make the spot with Montreal next season. Depends on or what could happen about that. So we'll be interesting. 10:50, guys, and I want to finish that about this. And the NHL road unrighted rules and NHL Riley Craig versus Morgan Riley, suspension 5 game after a slap shot and the net, and he hit the net. He scored a goal. I like it. He could miss it. You never know. But a lot of another thing, left and right. I've never been too much involved with that during the week, the last couple of days since happening. But I would like to hear from each one of you about what you feel about that situation and the suspension, everything like that. We're going to talk more about this the next couple of shows about the NHL unwritten rules. It could be never cross the red line, or it could be you got a fight after someone get a hit, everything like that. We can go all the way like this. But tonight we'll talk about the Riley Craig and Morgan Riley. So you guys, you're on the stage about that. You have to defend your point of view. Look like you have different point of view about this, and then the people in the chat can talk a little bit more. I'll conclude the show on tonight. So who want to start that conversation?
I'll let Ernest go first, because I think he has the most probably the most mainstream view on it, I guess, probably. So Luciano, this is what you wanted, man. Here it comes. Another troublemaker.
I mean, let's look at it from the perspective of the incident itself and what happened, right? You got a 4-3 game. You have pretty much a breakaway, empty net. I mean, to me, there was no need for him to take a slap shot in that net to score that goal. Wayne Gretzky put it best when he was with the Oilers and they were losing to the Islanders, and he passed by their locker room and he saw silence there. Whereas the Edmonton Oilers were very rambunctious at the time. They hadn't learned how to win. And that's what we're seeing in Ottawa. He said, act as if you've been there before. And in my case, here you have a rookie that comes up and does that kind of antics. I don't agree with that. To me, it was really him just giving a major FU to the Toronto Maple Leaf fans, and saying, just in the same style that Stützle did when they interviewed him after the Montreal game, and he said, "Oh, the best part of tonight's game was seeing the Montreal Canadiens fans leaving the arena out of here in Ottawa." Well, you know what? If if that's what you're relying on, that you're afraid of fans that are in the arena, there's bigger problems in the organization than what we're seeing. There's different ways, like support your team. Don't sell tickets like Florida did that last year to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They didn't allow them to buy tickets in the playoffs when they went down to Florida. So they restricted the players that went there. But I digress from that. The point is, Toronto's been very much sort of been put aside as a team that doesn't react, that they're too soft. And I think at that point, I don't agree with what Riley did in terms of cross-checking right across the head. I think that was wrong. And as a result, he got his due diligence, right? He got a 5-game suspension. It hurts the team and whatnot. What I didn't mind was the pushback. I think that's something where you got to tell a player, you just don't do that thing. And you look at things like, what's wrong with things like when a player takes a snow shower at a goal. But
I think
you just don't.
Okay.
Have we frozen?
Yeah, you froze for a
Yeah.
sec, but you're back.
Yeah, I was just saying, a player.
Toronto Leaf tried to cut the internet right now at home.
I was saying you take a snow shower at an opposing goalie once they have the puck. There's no need for that. Again, does it hurt the goalie? Is there anything wrong with that in terms of legality? No, not at all. But first and foremost, you represent yourself. Second, you represent your team. And thirdly, and most importantly, I think you represent the NHL. And by doing stuff like that, it's not classy to me. I think you have to go in there. You have to act like you've been there before in terms of being a winner, and that's what defines a winner. And to me, it shows that something that I said earlier, that in Ottawa's case, we're looking for, what's the biggest deterrent from them being a playoff team right now? And I'll say it. It's the fact that they don't have a leader on that team that will take a player that does something like that and say, we don't do that. That's not us. That doesn't define who we are. And you can go on to all sorts of different codes, like, you don't shoot the puck after a whistle. You don't, not a player that falls in a fight, you don't go down there and you're on top of him and give him an extra shot. Like, these things, they're not illegal. They're not penalties, but you just don't do it because it's not the classy thing to do. It's an unwritten rule that you have to have respect for yourself, your team, and the NHL. So that's what my beef about it was. Had he picked the top corner, that would have been more than sufficient. It would have sent the same message, but and not to an extravagant form. And the last thing I'll say is, you look at a different sport like basketball, and you're up by, let's say, 6 points, and there's 10 seconds left in the game, and you have the ball. You waste the clock. You don't take a shot. You don't put up a 3 and rub it into the face of the other team, right? And that's what I kind of was irked by the whole situation there. Go ahead, Marco.
All right. Well, I don't agree with that analogy for basketball. That's not, basketball runs, like, literally they're doing plays with 1.5 seconds left. So if you have an opportunity to put points up, basketball is. So I don't agree with that analogy. But anyways,
not if you have a 10-point lead and there's 10 seconds left. You don't do it. Watch every single game. They'll bring it over center, and they just stop playing pretty much to run out the clock.
Yeah, but it's not a good analogy because, the reason you have an empty net goal is because the team thinks they're close. And anyways, let's not get into that rabbit hole. But so overall for me, I think I'm fine with the number of games. I think the number of games is fine. 5 games I think is fair. So I think, that's fine. Around the question of the code, right? So I find the code very confusing. I get it. To me, a better way to look at it, Aaron Tapp, and kind of what I suspect you're saying here, which I agree with, is you want to play with honor. There are certain times where you want to play with honor, and that's fine. To me, there are certain things, for example, you're right. Like if somebody is down on the ice, then you don't keep punching him in the face. To me, that's that's first of all, it's dangerous. Like somebody, it's not only the honorable thing to do, but you're putting somebody at risk, right? So to me, like the things that should be part of the code are more like when you're putting people at risk, like or things that are just not honorable, right? Like, but when it like to me, the best example I've seen here is we had Wallman who had a penalty shot in overtime. He does a slap shot, by the way. Not even I haven't even mentioned the dance yet. He does a slap shot on a penalty shot in overtime, scores, and that does the gritty, dancing the gritty right in front of the bench of the opposing player's bench. None of the people that agree with like you that think that there shouldn't be hot dogging and all that say a word about that. Don't you find that more aggravating than somebody putting us like again, we can go example, have debates round and
Yeah.
round and round. What it is, like what doesn't make sense to me is that it's too subjective. It's too fluid. There's too many things. So at the end of the day, I think you're right. Like, basically players should play with honor, but I see it from the other point of view. Like, things I don't have a problem with the celebrate. I don't have a problem with the slap shot into an empty net because it adds emotion. Like if you see Riley Gregg's interview, he said the reason I did is because I was pumped. Like, and Entertap, you're right. Like I was pumped. End of the game, lots of Leafs fans in our stadium, and it's just kind of sending a message, right? So I think we all know what he was trying to do there. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's good for the game. We want guys to have personality. I think you can have both. Like you can have players express themselves, show their personality, but also play with honor. I don't think you don't have to go one extreme to the other. So I think that's fine. On the question about Riley though, and your point about he was in the situation where people have criticized Toronto for being soft and that he had to do something there. To me, all that proves is that Toronto is still soft. To me, they haven't. To me, they've just kind of confirmed their reputation because if you are going to stand up for your honor in that situation, I don't see that, skating up behind someone and blindsiding them with a cross check. Now, I know if you look at the replay, it does look like he aimed for his shoulder and hit his head, and I totally get that. But it's still, you're still going in with your stick high. So it is a very reckless play. So to me, like it's kind of what I was saying earlier about how, how Pat Verbeek probably wasn't very impressed with what Anaheim did at the end of the game against Montreal yesterday. They don't show up the whole game. They don't push back. They don't do it when it matters. And then all at the end of the game, you grab a guy and you rough him up a little bit and okay, look, like we care and I can play physical. To me, that's all Riley did. To me, that doesn't prove anything about Toronto, providing a response to being disrespected. I don't see that they help their reputation around the league at all with that, to be honest. To me, the right response there from Riley is if he really so first of all, I don't think you were saying earlier, Entertap, that Ottawa has way bigger problems than being worried about if there's too many Toronto fans. Like you have way more things to worry about. Well, what about Toronto? You have a lot more things to be worried about than an empty net slapper goal when you just lost to the 28th place Ottawa Senators. So you can say the same thing about Toronto being worried. Like, why are they so sensitive about something like that when they have way bigger problems to worry about as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, every team can come up with an excuse for their deficiencies in a particular game or a series. In this case, I think Ottawa's beaten them a couple of times, so there is a level of frustration, of course. I just think that there's certain things that, like I said, would have been worse if Riley did absolutely nothing and just skated away. Like, think of it that way. Like, which opportunity?
Like,
yeah,
I'm not saying he did. Yeah, so for me, it would have sufficed for because it's Riley, it's not his thing. Just simply skated over to him and pushed him, or like grabbed his sweater and shook him around or whatever. That would be fine.
Yeah,
if you felt disrespected doing that, then that's fine. Personally, I don't see that as a disrespect. Like I see that it's a kid that's pumped or whatever. But, you know what I found really interesting Intertap, and I don't want to get into this too much because I don't want to bring politics into it or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I feel like there's kind of like a comparison between people thinking that if you're, if you're not being disrespectful, that somehow it's like something to do with being woke or something like that, right? Like I've seen a lot of the same people who get really angry at woke kind of stuff be angry at the fact that these young kids are going in and doing their thing and all that stuff, right? So it's really weird. Like this incident here, it kind of almost was like beyond hockey. Like a lot of people's theories was, okay, well, it's because it's Toronto versus Ottawa. It's on Hockey Night in Canada. It got like a lot of press because of that. But it's weird. You had even like non-hockey fans talking about this, and you see a lot of people talking about like everything you said, right? Like these kids just they have no respect and all this stuff, right? So it seems like this story has gotten a lot bigger, and it's there's like an undercurrent in the story about something else. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it's really fired up a lot of people. So it's good. Like I think it's good. It's good to have these conversations. We can have these conversations in a respectful way, like we're doing. We disagree,
Yeah.
but it's good to have these conversations. But I think it's good for the game. The Battle of Ontario is an important thing. So I think it's a great thing that Ridley Gregg did that. To be honest, I think it was fun. I don't see a difference between somebody doing the gritty and doing that. I just find it like coach, you were mentioning, there's an article in The Athletic today where this guy listed all these different things in the code. I think it would be a great show for us to go through. And when you really start looking at all the things, it's crazy. Like guys, like in some cities, like they have these like laws that are still on the books from like the 1800s that make no sense. Like you're not allowed to, when you go to a hotel, it's against the law to tie your horse to the front of the hotel. Like all these laws still exist, but they're obviously not enforced because they were made like in the 1800s, right? So to me, it doesn't make sense. Like we need to evolve. We need to kind of continue to try to evolve the game and try to make it exciting. So I get that playing with honor. I totally get that when players are doing things that are maybe reckless and maybe endangering, the health and safety of another player. But if it's going to be a rule, then make it a rule. Guys, here's the
But are
last
you,
point I'll say.
Marco? Are you not at least put off by the optics that had?
No, no, like
Yes.
no, not at all. Like guys, think of
See,
it.
I think that's wrong. It gives a bad name to the sport
What does
to
the
show
slap shot?
those types of antics.
Why?
It's not
Why?
well, because it's just things that you don't do. It doesn't shine a
Why?
positive light on the sport, and it's a
What?
sport that, especially in the
It's supposed to be
States,
fun, dude. It's supposed to
we're
be
trying
fun.
we're trying to grow the sport, and that's not
Exactly.
going to happen. Well, it's not. You're not going to grow it with that kind of
With guys
act.
doing insightful things, of course. Like, guys, here's an interesting point.
No,
Okay, there is a penalty called like a unsportsmanlike conduct. There's a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. Instead of having all these like weird codes that are not called in the game, if somebody does something unsportsmanlike in a game, we have a penalty for that. So why not just call it unsportsmanlike conduct? Like sometimes here's another code thing, right? Like if you shoot a puck at a goalie after the whistle has gone, that's against
yeah,
the code, right? Well,
yeah,
referees actually call that a penalty that you can get I've seen people get called unsportsmanlike conduct for doing that. So
not often enough.
if we all agree that shooting slap shot into an empty net is unsportsmanlike, then the referee should call it unsportsmanlike on Ridley Gregg. Problem solved. Let's just understand what is sportsmanlike and what isn't. And on your idea that to help, like you honestly think that selling the game is going to be helped by like having like like really conservative, reserved guys? Like no, like people want to be entertained. They want to
No,
see
it's
energy, personality. You want
yeah,
like
no,
robots?
that's not
No.
what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a level of discipline that has to be had among a team, and if players are sort of going out there and marshaling their own actions, and not really being respectful to the sport. And I mean, I agree with a lot of stuff that happened in the 70s. And we were saying, oh, well, there's too much fighting in the league. Well, you know what? They sort of maintained the level of purity to the game there as well. I know it was fighting, and I know it's out of the game, but at least you knew that if you were going to do something stupid out there, you would have to answer to that action at some point.
Why is it
Now in the
stupid? Why, I don't
NHL,
understand why it's stupid. So explain. So here's the thing. Explain to me why it's okay to do a goal celebration and why it's not okay to do a slap shot into an empty net. Tell me why that's stupid and the other thing is not stupid.
well,
How is
because
that
one
correct?
is a gimme, one is an absolute gimme that you have an open net and you can score by, who was it the other night? Eriksson Ek. All he did was he just tapped it into the empty net. It was exactly the same situation. And he walked away. He didn't even celebrate it. Why? Because he's a true champion to the sense of the word, in that he's representing not only his team, he's representing the league. It's
Wow.
it's it's
You're
just a
reading a
classy
you're
thing
reading
to
a
do.
lot into it, man. You're reading a lot into that
No,
one
no.
situation. Again, dude, look at the circumstances. Ottawa, Toronto, all these Leafs fans in your building. Riley, Ridley Gregg was like battling in front of the net for minutes. Like Ottawa's had a shitty season, so they're like, finally like a big win on our own barn. Like there's a lot of emotion that go into that versus like we don't know what's going on in Eriksson X head or whoever else when they're scoring in an empty net. Yeah, they're happy to win that game, but and again, is like am I saying that really, Greg? Did he want to antagonize them? Yes, but
Yes, he
we
did.
like that. Like, that's fine. Like, since when is it bad to have like? Do we not celebrate rats in the game like Ken Linsman and Brad Marchand? Like, rats have a big part of it's part of the culture of hockey to be a rat and to antagonize the team. Like, it's part of the fun, man. I don't think it's
Yeah, but
it's
you
being
you do it at the end of a game. Like those rats
yeah
from Florida didn't come on until after the game was completed. You,
yeah.
you don't do it in the middle of a game. You don't create a situation that, okay, it's going to create a rivalry. Big deal. I mean, I have
Well,
no
that's
no.
great for the game. It's great for the game.
It's
That's what you
it's
that's what the NHL wants. Like if you're a marketing guy, that's what you want. You want rivalries. You want people to be interested. Like, look, like we're not even we're a Habs podcast and we're talking about a Leafs Sens game, right? And like Twitter was on fire for days and people are still talking about it. That's what you want. Like, again, like I made this comment to you in the chat yesterday, right? Like this is not the Marines. Like, do we want hockey players to be like discipline machines that follow a very specific code, and if you do then it's dishonorable? Like, yeah, like there should be rules of engagement when it comes to health and safety and things like that, because we're talking about health and safety of a player. But otherwise, man, like it's a business, and you want an exciting product. You want young players to be able to express their personality, and be able to kind of like act on their emotion in a game. Or else, what are we doing here? Like it's supposed to sports above and beyond of anything is entertainment. It's not like it's not the nation's military here that that there's a certain code that you have to kind of like live by, or it's dishonorable, right? Like I just don't see it that way.
Well, I mean, if you talk to a guy like Lou Lamoriello, I mean, you say nowadays, what's wrong with having a beard, a mustache? But he demands of his players to portray a
That's
certain
insane to me.
image. Okay,
Yeah,
now you
that's
might
crazy.
say that's outdated, it's obsolete. I might even
It
agree
is
with it, but you have to look at the underlying message there. And the message is we're a team, we represent each other,
conformity.
we're a
Conform.
unit.
Yeah,
And
conform.
it's all about portraying the same message. Even the NHL at one point sort of mandated that the players traveling to a game were dressed in suits, or at least very well dressed. They didn't go in as bums dressed with jeans and uh, other apparel that's not appropriate. Why? Because it makes the game look better. and
I
and,
don't
and
like
that's
to who
I'm
though?
not
Like
saying I'm not saying I'm not saying be take the entertainment out of hockey. Like there's lots of entertainment. It's the fastest game in the world, the fastest sport.
but
You're going to get the
that's
entertainment when you put two good teams together, that you don't
you're
need
not
the
gonna
antics of taking a slap shot into an empty net. What did that prove? Okay, you scored
it
into
added
the empty
emotion.
net.
It added emotion to. Well, see, you're making your own point there. So what's the big deal? If it
No,
doesn't do anything, then why is it that dishonorable if it doesn't change anything in the game? It obviously
because
did something.
it's rubbing
It was.
salt into the wound.
It's antagonizing. That's
Oh
fine.
well,
That's
okay,
yeah,
but
of
then we
course it's fine.
shouldn't complain if somebody like Marchand is licking
I
somebody's
don't.
mask or
I
face
don't
mask,
complain.
or
I didn't
oh well,
complain
okay,
about that. I think that's
but it's not
nitpicking.
right. As a matter of fact, after Marchand did that, and again we go off on a tangent here, but after Marchand did that, you know that Bergeron took him aside after the
Sure.
game, and he's
Maybe
never
licking the
ever
face.
repeated anything like
Yeah.
that again.
Yeah,
And
licking the face that's like a whole other extreme, right? Like, so, if Ridley Gregg was
yeah,
licking Morgan Riley, I would also, slash the guy in the face. Like, I'll be honest, like licking somebody in the face, that's a whole other level, right? But I don't think you can compare that to, a slapper into an empty net, right? But Coach, I think Intertap and I could go
agree
on
to
and on.
disagree.
Yeah, this is a preview. Like, I think we should do the full show. Let's go through. Maybe there's some like old, like I said, some laws in the NHL rule book about something about horses, or maybe there's like witch spells that we don't know about. But we should go through all the myths in the code, and then we'll see kind of how much of it really makes sense.
Yeah. We'll see what happens about this one today. My opinion is easy for me. Is it would be simple if Riley decide to drop the glove and jumping on the Craig, and that would be the right reaction of the situation. If
Yeah,
you
but
like, you
hang on
don't
a
like.
second, Coach. Sorry, Coach. Sorry to interrupt, but if you're saying that, then you're also saying that the action that he created just prior to that is inappropriate.
For the
No.
team,
Otherwise,
was
what
not
reason?
appropriate
What
for
reason
that.
would you want to drop your gloves and just go and start a fight?
No,
If what he
It's
did was perfectly
antagonizing.
legitimate,
It's
if it was,
antagonizing, but there's a difference. So here's the key, Intertap. There's a difference between it being inappropriate versus antagonizing. So Morgan Riley, I think we all agree. Yeah, he should walk up and either grab his sweater or punch, or challenge him, or whatever, because it is an antagonizing move. But what you're saying is that it's inappropriate. That shouldn't be in the game. What I'm saying is that, please, more of that in the game. I want emotion and antagonization. Just if you're going to react to it, do it like a man. Don't stick the guy in the don't cross check the guy in the face. Face him like a man.
I don't disagree with that part. I think that the stick to the face was inappropriate, but he did get his penalty for that, and he's serving the 5 games right now. It's just you. I don't know. I'm from old school. I think that you say more about who you are as a person, as a team, and as an association when you act in a certain fashion, and that's with class. I'm not saying that you don't react to things. Like, obviously, what's the first thing I said earlier about Montreal? I said I love the fact that they all reacted when they were being pushed around. But they dropped their gloves and they did what they had to do. They didn't just wait for a player not to be looking and drill them into the boards, right? They faced them one-on-one and showed that, you know what, you're going to take a shot at my goalie like they did last year with Montebo. And you don't do like Petrie did, just walk away, skate away. You have to answer the bell for doing something like that.
100%.
At the end, I will resume it that way, right? If you are a coach or a player and you see a snapshot like that, you piss off. You're absolutely pissed off. Like, you are not accept that, and you want to be sure one of your players is going to jump on the correct right away as a coach. Now, you don't like what Riley did, the head with a stick. On the flip side, it's entertaining for the fans. It's entertaining for the hockey to see that, and that create a rivalities. Guys, I grew with Michel Therrien and Alain Vigneault, Hall versus Laval. You have more stuff in the newspaper, and the house was sell out every night because you have Peter Worrell versus Donald Brashear on the ice at the beginning of the face-off. Therrien was screaming to Vigneault cross the ice. Now, we're not the junior 1990s, but my point behind that, it's entertaining, it's rivalities, but at the end of the day, as a hockey player, you don't like it, the way he did it. And I like the fact Roddy Pitt, he got on that. I did not like his gesture. He paid the consequence of 5 games about that.
Yeah.
And
But coach, here's the thing, right? So you think that he did the right thing to confront him there, but again, what about the gritty? What about the crazy dance in overtime after you score? Isn't that just as disrespectful as a slap shot into an empty net? Like, that's my problem with this whole thing is,
okay,
where does it
so
end?
you have a friend right there. Wildman celebrate his goal. He scored in overtime. The game is over. He just celebrate. Yes, Greg, his move. It
It's a
was a
goal.
slap shot to on the empty net. He could
It's
just drop the
a goal
puck
in an empty
like
net.
99.9%. The puck is slowly go back in the net. You have an empty net. You are just pushing that. It's just great. And then he must say or an gesture after the goal you have to pay. I don't see anybody go to the team lose the game on the Wildman because he decided to dance after that. I see Wildman the same reaction of the Hurricane does after they win at home. They make their own stuff and the game is over. The game is move on. And Wildman, when he does, he's not provoke the opponent team because
Ooh, I don't know
poor.
about that, coach. I don't know about that. There's probably
It's
a lot
like
of
you
guys on the
score a
bench
goal, Marco.
watching the guys
Yeah, it
Ovechkin.
pisses them off.
I would say to you,
dancing in front of your
Marco, Ovechkin score a goal. He goes through the glass, jump on the glass. I don't have no problem with that part over there.
Me
Yeah,
neither.
of course.
Me neither.
And that's
But
entertaining. That's fine. But he doesn't turn to the opposing player and say, I beat you. Look at that. You look like
he
a
was
goof.
Wallman was
Huh?
dancing in front of their bench. I
No, I'm
guarantee
talking
there's
about
No,
Ovechkin.
he
Talking
was
about
not from the
Ovechkin.
bench. No.
no. Yeah, Ovechkin.
He was on
No,
the
I'm
blue
talking
line.
about Ovechkin. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
do that, right? And so
No.
that's appropriate. Like I think even with that goal, he scores in the empty net. Marco, don't you think the message is sent to Toronto? Like they beat him
Yeah.
already, I think 2 or 3 times this year. Like you don't have to slap it in there to send a message
It
that
wasn't even to Toronto. Like Ridley Gregg's message wasn't to the Toronto team. It was really as a reaction to the fans, like all the Leafs fans in the building. Like, hey, so Entertap, to your point, right? Like if you want a culture in Ottawa, hey, Toronto fans in my building, we're taking our building back. Boom. And just out of emotion, you slap it in the net because you're so pumped that you're telling all these Toronto fans in your building, we're taking our building back.
But
To me, that
at some point, Marco, if you think that way, not a problem. All right. And I would say to you, now you have to pay the consequence of that move for
Sure.
opponent team. That's
Absolutely.
it. That's
Yeah.
all. So if you do that, no problem. You score a goal. You prove to us. You just hammer us. But we're going to give you. Remember, if you do this again, you're going to pay the price, and then Roddy go jump on that part. That's for me. That's a part of the
fine.
game. You react
And
or you don't let go. Like if someone hit your goaltender and 5 other players looking, you said, "Oh, I cannot touch." It's Ryan Reeves, so nobody jump. Like remember this year, like someone hurt Montreal, and Cole Caulfield had to show up and someone in front of someone, whatever it was. But for me, it's the same way. I think the team have to react. For me, I would be pissed off, not because
if they didn't.
if I would piss off not because Greg did it. I would piss off because if my player does not react
Yeah.
on Greg.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But guys, here's like I said earlier, a good solution. Okay. We have a penalty on the books called unsportsmanlike conduct. Why not just make sure that the referee, like if we have a code, why not actually write down the code? What is sportsmanlike? What is not sportsmanlike?
Okay.
And
I
that
could
way we
agree
can
with that.
eliminate all that junk. We have a
Yeah,
penalty
okay.
for it. It's the same
Right.
argument that I've made in the past that there's a penalty in the NHL for intent to injure. So instead of having this penalty of was initial contact to the shoulder instead of the head, like why make it complicated? You can watch a play on the ice and you can tell, did that one dude try to kill that other guy? It's pretty simple, right? Like any person that knows hockey can see, was there an intent to injure? So you don't need all these secondary rules. There's a rule called intent to injure. So I don't know why, we have all these rules in the NHL rule book, but the referees don't use them because there's all this ambiguity and things are not clear. So Let's just make it clear. Let's just write down the code. Why don't we, coach? Great video for us. We will write down the code. We will make it official. We will send it to Gary Bettman, and maybe they can publish the code. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about the unwritten code, and they have a lot of views. So let's make it official. We'll be
Let me check on an AI right now. Let me check. Ask them AI if he can.
Yeah.
ChatGPT will write it.
By the end of the day, and at the end of the day, Marco, I would say to you, for me, is like, yeah, he does not have to do a slap shot over there. He could push the puck in the net and move on to the next game and close. Now, it could be immature. It could be immature situation. He maybe never thought, because the game guy is an emotion guy. He's an emotion. The guy go and break away. I'm sure he never thought he's going to go break away and do a slap shot. It's
split second decision
that way, and he never thought that way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he never thinking like 3 weeks or 1 month ago. Or he never thinking one day in the NHL I'm going to do a slap shot when I'm going to break away. It just happened on the and spontaneously. And you get the coincidence about that, and it turned around. Now, would be interesting if ever happen again, like if you're at the top circle, you do a slap shot in the net. What do you do? Like, do you go to run after him again? I don't. I think the fact it was just two teams does not like each other. Also, come, you know what I mean? Like, it's the San Jose, Montreal. Example, I don't think so. They will go around the guy like they did, like it was Ottawa, Montreal, Boston example.
That's why I didn't like Intertap, like example of Eriksson Ek, right? Like it's not the same. Toronto, Ottawa, Hockey Night in Canada, all this stuff. Like I again, there's a lot of emotion in that situation. So you can't compare.
An exact parallel. That was an exact parallel. At least with the Minnesota game, you could say they're fighting hard to try to get into a playoff spot.
Who are they playing?
You can't say.
Who are they playing? Who was that against?
It was against a superior team. I can't remember. It was just either last night or 2 nights ago. I was watching the game. I forgot who the other team was right now. But it was almost identical situation. Like, if you Google it, you'll see
here's
it.
Another. Then I have to jump off here.
Yeah, like I was just going to end off by saying, do you remember not too long ago when Sean Avery was in front of Brodeur and doing this in front of his vision? Again, there's no penalty there, but it's a code. You don't act that immature.
No,
like, you don't look good for yourself. You don't look good for the team. Even their own players did not like Sean Avery. And it wasn't good for the NHL.
But what did the NHL do with that Intertap? The very next day, they created a rule saying that you can't do that. There was never a rule before that you could do that. So they created a rule for it. So that's perfectly
so
fine.
We're in accordance that where we should create some unsportsmanlike kind of penalty for actions of that ilk.
I think,
remember, guys, for me, it's immature players right now did that. Claude Giroux will never do this. Like 90% of the players right now will never do that.
Exactly. Winners don't do that.
Like,
I don't agree.
For me, it was more like an immature, irresponsible player was thinking with no, like, playing emotion, everything like that. For them was a big W against Toronto Maple Leafs. They raced for the playoff. You put this all together, this is a great situation for that. For me, it's like, look, you make a mistake, in my opinion. I like the reaction Morgan Riley. I don't like the way he did that way. But at the end of the day,
I don't like his reaction. I don't like his reaction.
He got suspended for 5 games. I think Toronto, just as a coach, I would tell him, look, come on, buddy. Just think smarter. You don't have to go with your stick. You have to drop the glove right there or jump on the face of the guy right away there. And that's it. That's all. Right? And then after that, I would turn around and I would point, I would say, hey, all right, we have when is the calendar, the next game? Right? When is the calendar? And then you have to go through that part. You have a fight, guys, someone hurt someone, right? What happening? The next game, you're going to have your players going to jump on that guy. It's happened. I think Josh Anderson got hurt someone in the past, and then happening.
Byron? Yeah, remember Byron? Pretty much his career got ended because of the code, right? He made a bad play, then now he served the penalty, he had a suspension. He even served a suspension, but no, the code, he's got to fight. And what happens? He fought like a guy much bigger than him, got his lights knocked out of him, and he was never the same after. So
yeah, that's true.
the code,
and it was the same. Sorry, it was the same thing with Corey Perry, 3 years ago in the playoffs against John Tavares. As accidental as that was, the Leafs didn't see it that way. But at least he dropped the gloves on the next play, and it was answered. It was
Well, breaking news, the city of Montreal, they just announced they removed the name of Atwater Street for become the Slafkovsky Street downtown in Montreal. So pay attention to that. We have a ceremony. It will be on Monday at 12 o'clock, press conference next week. The new street, the Slafkovsky Street over the Atwater Street. Not said going to change all the name of the bar around that area. But at some point, pay attention to that. So Slafkovsky Street, new name on that part over there. That's concluded the show. We hit the 11:30. We get an extra 30 minutes to just give you an idea how this can go all the way until the next live about that
Coach,
one.
Before you go, can you put that special picture up before we go though? Because Valentine's Day, maybe end with your sexy pictures before we go.
Oh, I don't know if she's back again here. There we go. It's a great night and jump bien and pataya. That's the way to be at the end of the night. And they're available every night if you want to go that direction. It's up to you. But until then, my friend, we want to thank all the moderators tonight. Let you know Ron was in the chat tonight. We want to thank all the three super chat, Mr. Charles with Larry and, of course, Rick Bengal. And then we want to thank everybody to click on the likes and all the great conversation, the chat between everybody and with respect. That's the most important things. And then the most important is the two co-hosts we got every single time we have a show on the weekly recap or on the locker room. Marco Larbi for Hawkesbury and Enoch Tap for Toronto downtown where he's waiting for the snow. And don't worry, Lucio says he's going to go to clean up your front door and after for tomorrow when you go to school. So you'll be ready on that one. So Luciano, be ready on that one. That's what we expect from you, Luciano. And the show was sponsored by Luciano Graziano tonight on the Rick Bengal. Juraj Slafkovsky.
You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you.
What a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight for another locker room. But before we leave, we want to ask both of you, have anything you want to add? Prediction of the Montreal Canadiens tomorrow night and Saturday. What do you expect, Mr. Nartap, for the Montreal against the Rangers in Washington?
It's going to be tough, but I'm going to stick to my prediction, 2-1.
Marco?
0-2 for the rest of the week. Sorry, guys.
Saturday, who is between the net? Montembeault, Primeau, or Allen?
Montembeault.
Yeah, it could be. Could be Allen.
Can he return with Montembeault
tomorrow? Montembeault against the Rangers.
Yeah, it'll be Allen on. Yeah, Allen on Saturday.
All right. Be well, be healthy. Funny with not only dominate your day, but funny with the first half of what, Mr. Marco?
The Year of the Dragon 2024.
Here we go. That's the way to finish the show. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing, great night. And, of course, the Hockey Nation show. The Habs Nation want to tell you one more thing. We love you, people. Let's see you next time, my friend. Thanks again, both of you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
I love you, Entertap.
You love the building. Salut, Harry. Oh. Booyah!